Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hello there. Hey, Pittsburgh, are you there? Well, son of a gun. Pittsburgh, I really wanted to talk to Pittsburgh because I wanted to see if they've been down at Jelly Rolls, but I guess we're going to have to talk to Cincinnati, Ohio. Hello there. Welcome to my world. Is Cincinnati there? Now, clearly, we have a bit of a problem. Cincinnati, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it, kid.
I have to ask you a big question. I filed bankruptcy a few years ago, almost 5 years ago.
Chapter 7?
No, all the way.
That's Chapter 7.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of 13, I guess.
Yep.
But anyway, my attorney, I had a car that was all tore up. I bought it at one of these pay-on-the-lot deals.
Mm-hmm.
And my attorney said the only way to do that would be to file bankruptcy, and I'd have to go through everything.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You must have owed a lot of money, huh?
Well, it was totaled by someone else. That person didn't...
No. How much did you owe altogether when you went bankrupt?
Altogether, I'd say about 12 or 13.
Okay, so...
Anyway, when I filed bankruptcy, I had a student loan and some other things put on there, you know. That's what the attorney told me to do. Now, almost 5 years later, say ABC company says that I owe them this money.
Well, student loans, for the most part, are not dischargeable by bankruptcy.
But yet the attorney said so.
Well, I don't care what he said.
Oh, I'm not arguing with you.
Are they trying to collect... I know that. They're trying to collect the student loans, right?
Yes.
And I think the student loans... These were these GSLs?
For a trucking school.
But, I mean, what kind of loans were they? Guaranteed student loans?
Yes, sir.
They are not dischargeable by bankruptcy. You got to pay it.
Well, that's what I was wondering because, you know, they wait 5 years later.
Well, what somebody has done is they bought up the loans.
Uh-huh.
Now, how much do they say you owe them?
About $5,000.
You could probably negotiate it down to about 2 or 3. Do you have a couple $3,000?
Pardon?
Do you have $2,000 or $3,000?
No, sir. I don't have no cash on me.
Well, see, if you had some dough, if you get your hands on some, you could probably negotiate that down quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
But as my understanding is, you cannot discharge a student loan through bankruptcy.
Okay. See, like I say, I wasn't arguing with you.
I understand.
It's what the attorney...
You had some lousy advice from your attorney.
Mm-hmm. And I called the attorney, and he says, well, we went through all that, and they said that everything was, well, in the courtroom, they said everything was taken care of, too.
Well, what do you mean everything was? When you go bankrupt, they give you a list of those obligations which are discharged. Were the student loans included in that list? And do you have a copy of it?
Everything was discharged.
But wait a minute. I'm asking you, do you have a copy of that list?
Yes, sir.
And are the student loans on there?
Yes.
They are. Well, that's interesting.
See, that's what I mean. You tell me that I don't owe nothing to the student loans, and then 5 years later, somebody says, well, I have to pay it back. That don't make sense.
Well, it makes sense if the person who told you that was in error.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I'm going to strike out again, but let's see if I can find an attorney out there or someone who's knowledgeable in these matters. My understanding is that guaranteed student loans are not dischargeable through bankruptcy.
Okay.
Now, I assume that's what you have at GSL. Guaranteed, you got through a bank and the government guaranteed the loan. Is that correct?
Right.
I want you to hang on.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a banker out there, an attorney, somebody can help us out here. We take a little time out. The number is 703-413-8381. Let's review the bidding. 703-413-8381. One more time, 703-413-8381. We could use a little help here. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet.
Talknet, 1-800-743-8000.
Stillwater, Minnesota. Hello there.
Good evening, Bruce.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing real well. I'm in the student loan industry. You were looking for some input on bankruptcies?
Yes, sir.
The way the regulations work on Chapter 7, previously, the reg changed about a year ago. I don't know the exact date.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, one would have to make 5 years worth of payments on a student loan before it would become dischargeable.
Mm-hmm.
The new regulations have gone to 7 years worth of payments.
Before
If someone had $20,000 in loans, for example, and they paid 7 years, they could get the rest discharged.
I see.
But when you find a loan for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, they aren't on a 7-year schedule anyhow, so virtually none of those are dischargeable.
So even though it showed up on the discharge list, which is an error on the part of the court.
If it is actually on the list, we do hear a lot that it was discharged, and when it gets right down to it, I'm not saying the other gentleman's in.
No, I understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
But many times we find, gee, it really wasn't included. It was listed in the debts,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily discharged.
Uh-huh. But suppose it was.
Suppose it was, then you need your attorney to call.
Yeah, because then you really got it. You have a conflict of the law.
Certainly do, and I could only discuss what I know about the student loan industry. I wouldn't begin to delve into the court system.
Very well. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much. We'll do it again, my friend. Memphis, Tennessee. Hello there.
Yeah, Bruce, I'm a bankruptcy lawyer in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
I heard portions of your conversation with the gentleman. I think.
Let me bring you real up to speed real quick.
All right.
That he filed Chapter 7 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Had some GSLs. He says were on the discharge list. They were certainly listed as debts. And now somebody's trying to collect them. It was my understanding that GSLs could not be discharged by bankruptcy. My previous caller said, yes, they can if if he'd paid for 5 years, which is not the case here.
Well, you're generally correct. A student loan is only dischargeable under a hardship case, and those are few and far between.
What's a hardship case, Counselor?
Well, hardship generally is if you're disabled, if you're unable to work, if you have perhaps a single parent who has 3 or 4 children, and again, an inability to earn an income.
Mm-hmm.
But absent that, you're correct. A student loan is non-dischargeable, and the fact that it was a scheduled and listed creditor is of no consequence.
So he's stuck with the thing.
No question about it.
Yeah. That's what I thought too, but I wanted to be confirmed with someone like yourself and my previous call, and I do appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Have a great holiday, Counselor. Thank you very much. Well, I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to hear up there in Lyons, New York, is it?
No, this is Cincinnati.
Or Cincinnati, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's not what you wanted to hear.
Oh, I didn't know.
But unhappily, now you know.
I didn't want to hear it, but, you don't know until you ask.
There you go. But I'm still of the opinion that you could negotiate this thing.
Okay.
But you're going to have to borrow the money somewhere to do the negotiation.
I thank you very much. You have a nice evening, and I love your network show.
Thank you very much. All righty, we go back to the Commonwealth of PA to Harrisburg. Hello there. Harrisburg, are you?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're out there making brownies or something.
No.
What's going on?
My question is, my husband and I had purchased a 7-diamond ring.
A what?
A 7-diamond anniversary ring. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay. A 7-diamond ring.
Anniversary ring.
All right.
Okay.
Well, for your 7th anniversary?
No, it's only almost 3 years. I just wanted the ring.
Okay. You're a rascal. Go ahead.
Anyway, the setting on the one side the diamond isn't quite set that great. So I asked them to take it back. They took it back. I picked it up tonight, but it's the same ring. But they told me it wasn't the same ring, so I was wondering what can I do about it.
Well,
they also told me that the manufacturers, wherever they get them from, they use the same molding for that ring.
Well, without regard to that, you said it wasn't set appropriately.
Right.
Did they correct it?
They said they did, but it looks the same way. Even the initials are in the exact same spot.
Well, what is it that you were unhappy about?
I don't like, it's supposed to be in a nice pyramid ring. I had one once before.
Yeah.
And I had no problems with that one. I really enjoyed that ring, so that's why I brought another one. But only it's more larger diamonds, and there's 7 of them.
Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to find out what it is they'd have to do to make it right.
Well, they said they sent it back and ordered a complete new ring, but the ring came back looking the same. And they told me, I picked it up tonight, and that's because it comes from the same mold that the other one was made from.
Well, that may very well be the case. That it is a mass-produced ring, and it does come from the same mold, and so it's going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're telling me that one of the stones is set incorrectly or it's not secure...
I had really was hoping they would just say, well, we'll, exchange it or give you credit or something, but they just gave me the ring, and I wasn't sure what I could do about it.
Well, I'm going to throw some pixie dust into your face now. You can do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do?
I would like to return it.
Have you asked them if you can return it?
Not in so many words.
Well, in so many words, can I return this? That's easy.
Huh?
Can I return this ring? 5 words.
Uh-huh.
And see what they have to say. I don't know I doubt seriously if you can.
Uh-huh.
Was this a Christmas present?
Yes, uh-huh.
Well, ordinarily, most stores now, they're not obliged to.
But it was purchased a month, in advance.
Well, a lot of people buy presents a month in advance. And most reputable stores, if a piece of merchandise is unused, will certainly refund your money within 10 days after Christmas unless they post a sign otherwise. Good luck. I'm Bruce for Talknet. Hello there, Omaha. How are you?
Hello, Bruce. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Well, I've been enjoying your program for on and off quite a number of years, and I got a question I'd like to bounce off of you here.
Let's do it.
Okay, I've got an inheritance that I'm going to come into quite a large sum of money.
How much money?
3/4.
$750,000?
Yes, sir.
That's certainly very substantial. Go ahead.
Okay.
How much of that do you have to give up to the government in the form of taxes?
Well, this is the whole problem. Okay, I haven't filed taxes since '83. I've had a dispute with the IRS where they admitted that they were in the wrong, and they owe me my 1983 tax return with incurred interest.
But that doesn't, in any way, shape, form, or regard, excuse you from not filing in 84, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 90, and 91.
Well, thing is, I refuse to file because if they're not going to pay me, I'm not going to pay them.
Well, that's damn foolishness, if you'll excuse me. Because they're holding all the aces. You're sitting there with a busted flush.
Okay.
Now, what you ought to do is get yourself an accountant instantly. And I've been corrected on this, and I'm willing to go with a correction either an enrolled agent or a CPA who practices before the IRS, and get your act in order in a hurry. Now, what have you been doing for the last 83? Last 8 or 9 years, what have you been doing? How much money have you earned?
Well...
Or let me start with the beginning. Are you working for somebody else or you self-employed?
Both.
Well, then we got to separate it then. How much money did you earn working for someone else each year? About?
That's hard to say because I don't have my employer hold out taxes for my payroll.
You do not?
No, I don't.
How do you get away with that?
I file a high number of dependents.
How much did you earn during those years?
Probably in the neighborhood of 30,000
a year.
Yes, sir.
30,000 a year. So that's round numbers. 270 grand you earned. Married, single, what?
Well, single.
You're liable to get a big chunk of that $750,000 taken away from you, my friend.
Okay. See, the thing is, I refuse to give it to the IRS.
Well, you can refuse all you want. How do you look in stripes?
I've been there.
You been in jail?
Yes, I have.
For what?
That goes back to robberies. This has been like 20 years ago.
All right. Well, did you like it?
Well, I didn't care for it, but, I'm not going to let them hold that as something over my head.
Well, they can sure hold over my head. I got news for you.
Right.
I don't want to go to jail. I mean, I'm only visited, and that's enough for me. What I'm telling you is you are a tax evader, not an avoider. And they love to make examples of people like you to say, well, I got a dispute on this high dependent. You've done all the things that they want to hang you for. How old a guy are you?
36.
You were in jail when you were 16?
Yes, I was.
Well, if I were you, you called me, I would sit down with a good accountant now and come clean. Now, you're going to have to pay us. What is the relationship with the person who's leaving you the money?
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay a lot of that money in taxes to begin with, inheritance taxes. And when the fact is, when that, and there's no way you're going to avoid that, and your name is going to be brought up. And then they're going to start looking at your previous tax history, and they're going to say, whoopsie, nothing there. And you're going to get nailed. Now, it's going to be a whole lot easier on you if you go to them rather than them coming to you.
Okay, well,
I mean, this argument, well, I'm not playing in your candy store because you didn't treat me well. That's just no argument.
Well, yeah, I can see that in a way, but still there's the question of how do I get the money that they owe me from 1983 with all...
That's a minor issue right now. A minor issue. Maybe a big deal to you, but it's a minor issue. The major issue is you've been evading taxes. Not avoiding, evading. That's crime. Now, you can say, well, I've been doing it the tax protest and all that sort of jazz, right?
Well, yeah.
A lot of those guys are in jail. The guys that wrote the books are in jail.
Right, I've read about one of them, right.
Yeah, well, but you want to join them?
Well, I don't particularly want to.
You're a guy that's going to inherit a nice chunk of cash, right?
Unless the IRS takes it all.
Well, wouldn't you rather be on the outside than the inside?
Well, either way, I see it right now as either I give it up to charity.
You can't give it to charity. You don't have that privilege.
If I refuse to accept that inheritance...
Well, that you can do, but that's stupid. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, I mean, there's no hope for you.
Well, either way, I end up in the same position.
No, that's not true. You're going to wind up with something. You're not going to wind up as much as you would have had to begin with. But you're going to wind up with something, a lot more than most people will ever have. But, I mean, you've had a free ride for 9 or 10 years. The rest of us have been paying our taxes, and you got a free ride. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't call it a free ride.
You wouldn't?
No.
You've earned money, and you haven't contributed to the system. That's not a free ride? What is it? Look up and down the street, the neighbors, they've all been paying their taxes. Who's been paying for the Army, the Navy? Who's been paying for the various social programs?
And who's been paying to support the world?
Oh, I'm not going to get started with that. You've been reading these tax books that about these guys who protest. I mean, it's garbage. It's not worth discussing. I'm telling you, if everything you told me is true, if you're smart, you'll get yourself a good tax accountant. If you're not, you get a good lawyer. And if not, get somebody on the outside to send you cigarettes or what you need, because you're going to do some hard time. And deservedly so if you continue this way. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Evansville, Indiana, thank you very much for your patience. What's on your mind?
Hi, Bruce. I'm calling. Have been in sales with a major company for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to eventually start up my own business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start preparing for it now.
Well, what kind of business are you preparing for?
Okay, I'd like to start up a business for a recruiting business and interviewing.
Recruiting what, employees?
Right.
Yeah.
I recently graduated from college, and going through the interviewing process, I really enjoyed that, and I also noticed that a lot of college students just do not know how to interview.
Oh, you want to teach people how to interview as contrasted with interview for jobs.
Right, and also combine that business into maybe teaching people how to sell themselves in interviewing, in the interviewing process, and also...
Well, there are a lot of people doing this, my dear.
Excuse me?
There are a lot of people doing what you're talking about.
Right. And I'm right now I'm trying to get as much experience and the knowledge into this field as possible.
Well, get a job in that field.
Well, I do have a job right now in sales.
Not in sales. You said you wanted to get into this interviewing business. What I'm saying is get a job in that business. There are many firms that do exactly what you're describing already.
Mm-hmm.
This is not exactly a brand new field you're plowing.
Okay.
Now, if you want to learn how to teach people to interview and so forth, get a job with firms that do that. I don't know where sales has any great... Well, there's a certain relationship to the extent that you're selling yourself. I think we could agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
But that aside, I don't know there's a great correlation. What are you selling?
What am I selling?
Yeah.
Food.
I'm sorry?
I sell food.
In what way?
I sell for a major food company right now.
I mean, you try to get shelf space and that sort of thing in the supermarkets?
Right.
So that is really not selling it as such, is it? At least I wouldn't consider that selling.
Well, yes, it is. I sell to chains.
Yeah, I don't consider that selling.
Okay.
What I do, you're competing for shelf space and you're offering deals and that sort of thing, right?
Right, and then I also did cold call sales for an internship for 6 months.
What's selling what?
I sell business forums.
Now, that's selling.
Yeah.
Don't you agree there's a difference in the two jobs?
Well, yes, it is. There is a difference, but in being in both fields, I think that, they're totally two different types of sales.
But they aren't sales. Well, we can disagree on that.
Right. Well,
if you walk into a store and you represent, I'm going to pick a big company, Campbell's Soup, all right?
Sure.
The supermarket's got to carry Campbell's Soup whether they like it or not. You can be the biggest so-and-so in the world, but the customers demand Campbell's Soup. It's such an established brand. Now, what they might not give you is the prominent shelf space that you'd like to get for your brand, and that's up to you to persuade them by, whatever, freebies or payment or whatever. But it's just, to me, that's not sales.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, most people that call themselves salesmen are not salesmen, they're order takers.
Right.
All right, and that's more order taking in my view than selling. The first thing, cold calls, selling office forms, that was hard selling. Selling life insurance is selling. Casualty insurance is for more order taking than it is selling.
Right.
As I see it. But I don't see where either of those things prepare you for what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about as far as, eventually going into doing sales seminars?
That's fine, but you got to be, first of all, again, that's a very crowded field.
It is. Okay.
Pardon? Yeah, you got to be if you can say, for example, well, let's take life insurance, all right?
Mm-hmm.
That you've been a $10 million producer for 5 years or a $20 million producer for 5 years.
Right.
No, but you're going to get the attention of some life insurance people. You're going to say, look, I sold life insurance for a year. I'm going to run a seminar. Who needs you?
Right.
You don't have a track record to point to. I'm not knocking you. I'm telling you the facts of life.
Right.
If you decide you want to be an after-dinner speaker, you may be a great speaker, but who are you? Nobody ever heard of you.
Right,
But if you go out and you take 4 gold medals at the next Olympics, then, well, you're laughing, but that's how you get those jobs.
Yes, I realize that. So what you're saying is, as far as, motivational speaker,
you've got to accomplish yourself first. You've got to be, and I don't mean just average accomplishment. You got to be way above the pack.
Right.
Otherwise, who needs you? I mean, let's face it. Would I hire a guy that played double-A ball to be my after-dinner speaker, or would I want some guy like Reggie or what? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Who would you rather have?
Well,
speaking, Reggie Jackson or some guy from nowhere?
Oh, Reggie, but okay.
Well, wait a minute. That's exactly right. And that's why they hire him to speak and not the guy from the double-A team.
Right.
Because he's been
Another area is to focus on is a lot of, a lot of companies, they put an ad in the paper and they get thousands of resumes. What if you were the person to weed out those resumes?
There's 1,000 companies that'll do that for you right now.
How come when I was out interviewing right out of college, nobody even mentioned any companies like this?
Well, maybe they didn't mention it. That doesn't mean they didn't exist, my dear.
Right. But
they do exist.
They do.
That's what headhunters do, but you weren't even at the level where you're good enough to be considered by a headhunter.
Oh, exactly. You're
just a kid. I mean, and that's not meant as criticism. It's meant as a statement of fact.
Right.
But you get up there in the $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 range, there are hundreds of companies that screen out what they consider to be the unqualified applicants.
Before they
get to the company's attention, that's right.
Well, because I've done some research, and some companies just, especially in sales, are just resulting to GPAs. They're weeding them out that way.
Well, that's one way. And sales jobs are not that hard to find.
Right, and I just think that's totally wrong.
Well, no, you're wrong. You're not listening to me, dear. Sales jobs are easy to find.
Right.
Well, what we say, you say right, then you keep right on going.
Well, any job is easy to...
No, that's not true. Why are sales jobs easy to find?
Well, there's a lot of them.
No, but that's not the right answer.
What is?
The answer is because salespeople generate the money they're paid. They can be measured instantly.
Well,
did you make the sale? Yes, we'll pay you a commission.
Right. Well, I think, a lot of college students, they just think that, the economy's bad, so they're not going to get a job.
That's their problem.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them need to be motivated in a way that there's jobs out there. You just got to work hard and find them.
I don't disagree with that, but you're going to have, you see, again, we're back to the same thing. We've come full circle. You're a nice young woman. How old are you?
23.
All right. But you've got no track record.
All right. Well, I know, but I'm not saying I'm going to open it up.
No, but what I'm saying is go out and be a killer.
And establish yourself?
That's right. If you chose, for the sake of discussion, this food sales, all right?
Right.
Well, if you could go out and say, a year from now, I put more stuff on the shelf than any salesman the company's had in the last 30 years. Well, that's a credential, isn't it?
Right.
Well, go out and do it. Then you become valuable as a speaker, as a trainer.
Well, I thought...
If you're going to go to combat, you want to train somebody to fly in combat. You hire a combat experienced pilot.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to.
I mean, this area of business is just kind of being... There's a lot of people getting into it, and it's just...
Well, it's always been a lot of people in it.
Right.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, right.
But you've got to... I've got to let you go.
Okay.
But the point is, my dear, you've got to do something outstanding to make yourself stand out at the head of the pack. You had this little kid came from nowhere with a dumb picture, Home Alone again. I saw it on an airplane. I mean, you see them when they're first released on airplanes, it means nobody has any hope for it. Suddenly becomes one of the biggest earning movies. The kid's worth $5 million. For whatever reason, he did something that was outstanding. He performed very well on that by the public standards, not by mine. But I found it to be a totally grossly uninteresting film. But that's beside the point. It made a lot of money. The kid is now an established product and worth a ton of money. You got to do the same thing.
Okay.
I wish you well, dear.
Thank you.
I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet.
800-743-8000.
Let's go to Wichita, Kansas. Hello there.
Bruce.
Yeah, it's me.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you.
I had a question to ask you about a comment that was made earlier.
Go ahead.
On English degree, getting an English degree in college.
I said an English degree today is not worth much.
Yeah, I wanted you to elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, where are you going to go with it? What good is it right now? And it's a practical matter. I didn't say it's not worthy. It's like poli-sci. Where are you going to go with that, except maybe to law school? One of my kids was a poli-sci major.
I'm just not really familiar with the field, just getting ready to switch over. I wasn't sure maybe... what is an English teacher? Are they required to have a PhD?
Well, in English, it's a very, you can go into academia, that's true, but that's an extraordinary limited area today.
Yeah.
I mean, who's quit? People are staying their jobs, particularly tenured jobs. They leave when they die or they can retire.
I guess so.
It's a very, very, and let's face it, the competition, particularly at the college level, is becoming more and more intense because there are less students in the pool.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you have schools are becoming much less selective than they once were.
You suggest then to get a master's degree then?
I didn't say that.
That opened the field up a little bit?
A little bit, but not much. I didn't say that. Yeah. I think it depends on why you're going to school. If you're going to school just to get a degree, and that's why I went to college. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not a good reason, but that's why I went. I found out that socially and business-wise, I had to have a degree. Nobody really asked me if I learned anything. I intended to be self-employed, as I have been all of my life, other than my radio career. But I also knew that it was necessary to have a degree, so I went back to get a degree. And really, gum chewing, basket weaving would have been just as well. I've been happy enough with that.
Yeah.
No, but that was my motivation. Now, if you want to get into academia, you may as well get used to the idea at the college level that you're going to have to get your terminal degree, your PhD, EED. Otherwise, you're not going to, and you got to publish. Otherwise, you're not going to be around very long.
Yeah.
Now that's a fact. Okay. If you want to practice law, clearly you got to get a law degree. You want to be a physician, you got to be at your MD.
I see.
These are your trade tickets. You get your union card punched. That's what it comes down to. If you want to be an accountant, you can be a general accountant, clearly a public accountant, but if you really want to go anywhere, you got to get your certification, which requires a certain amount of academic training. If you want to go somewhere in many areas of law enforcement, you've got to get your degree in police science or criminal justice. Not because you'll know so much more than anybody else, but the fact is, if I have a choice between somebody who has it and somebody who doesn't, I may as well go to safe route, take the guy who has it, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. These are not the pleasantest ways to describe these things. But in the real world that I've been surviving in and doing a fair job of survival for the last 40 years, that's what it's like.
Well, I appreciate your insight on that. I guess I need to get a master's degree then.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Depends on what you want to do. I mean, there are some financial institutions that wouldn't look at you unless you had a degree from Wharton. Except Wharton yet. Not just a degree, but a degree from Wharton. There are law firms, unless you went to one of the top 4 or 5 law schools in the country, you couldn't get in to sweep the floors. Does that mean that you have to go to those schools? No. But it does if you want to work for those firms. I mean, I know of one law firm that only recruits the top 3 graduates in the top 10 schools in the country. That means they have a max of 30 potential recruits a year. But they start these kids at 80 to 100 grand a year.
Yeah. Well, I'm not looking to make a lot of money.
No. But you see what I'm getting to? You got to know where you're going. For example, I got to let you go with one more thought. It's almost impossible today to get a degree flying to get a job flying an airplane without a college degree.
Yes.
They don't ask you in what, but you got to have a degree. I wish you well, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Bruce.
San Diego, we have about a minute and a half to share together. What's on your mind?
Hello, how's it going?
Everything's going just fine, thank you.
Recently, on one of your programs, I believe you had mentioned to a caller that there was that you weren't aware of a way that they could get a free credit report other than if they had been turned down for credit.
No, that's not true. That's not true. What I've said frequently recently, and you may have heard a tape show, that's a possibility. But recently, because of the adverse publicity that TRW, TransUnion, and Equifax have received, they're the 3 leaders. I think we'd agree on that.
Yes.
They have become a great deal more public relations oriented and have started in some cases of giving free credit reports upon request or for a very nominal fee. Up until that time, until the Congress got involved and public advocates and attorneys general, and you had that crazy mix-up up in New England where the whole town wound up, with a bum credit report, if you remember that one? These companies were extremely insensitive to the public because they didn't deal with the public. The public was what they made their money from, reporting upon the public, but they didn't give much of a damn for the public. I used to work for one of those companies when I was a kid.
I see.
And that was their attitude. Now a couple of them are giving credit reports upon request or for a very nominal fee.
If you'd like, I do. I recently obtained my free report from TRW, and an 800 number that I called.
Yeah, but as I think you realize, a very recent thing.
Yes, well, it was recent. I recently read it in the newspaper.
Yeah, and the reason they did it was because of the pressure that's been brought to bear on them, and I think the pressure has been rightly applied, because they have enormous impact on people's lives.
Sure do.
And yet, as an industry, we're extremely insensitive to the very people whose they owe their livelihood, because unless there are people to report on and people asking for credit, therefore their customers requiring information on, they'd be out of business. But they didn't see it that way, and all of a sudden they were held in the spotlight, and a lot of stuff that was seen in that spotlight was not exactly the most pleasant. And they got their public relations machine in gear, as I would have done if I were in their socks, and they are becoming a lot more available to the public.
Yes, it's like a good customer service.
Indeed. Well, I think they got a ways to go, in my opinion, but they're sneaking up on it. Thank you for your call, my friend. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. One of the nice things about doing a program of this kind is people will call in and correct me if I'm in error, and I like to think I admit it, or if they misunderstand what I say, give me a chance of clarification. Either way, we can agree and Where in the world is Clark Summit, Pennsylvania?
That's in northeastern Pennsylvania, up near the Pocono Mountain area.
Oh, up by the Gap, up in that area?
That's right, up that way.
All righty. What can I tell you?
Well, we bought a lot approximately 17 years ago. We had a lawyer when we bought it. We had it surveyed before we bought it. We built a property on it, and as I said, we're living there 17 years. And all of a sudden, we get a letter from a law firm claiming people who have property below us, which is landlocked, are suing us in a claim for ejectment. It says
for what?
Ejectment, E-J-E-C-T-M-E-N-T.
I never heard the term. I apologize.
They're claiming that their easement interest is 50 feet wide and runs along a portion of our property, and claiming that a portion of our property may actually be owned by them. And the letter from the lawyer says, my clients demand that you vacate all of the area of the property which accompanies the easement. They're saying, please forward this correspondence to your title insurance carrier. Well, 17 years ago, I don't think there was such a thing as a title insurance carrier.
Oh, yes, ma'am. There certainly, well, maybe not for you, but there certainly was title insurance 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were represented by counsel when you bought this property?
Yes, we were.
Did you finance it?
Yes, we did, but it's since paid off.
No, that's not the issue. You did finance it.
Yes, we did.
Well, I can't imagine that the bank would not have required title insurance.
I don't remember at that time if we had it at the time to be...
Well, do you have any of the papers that when you bought the house?
Yes, we do. We have everything.
Well, take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the settlement statement would tell you about title insurance. Because you had to pay for it, which would show what the premium was. On the closing statement.
Closing statement.
All the things that you paid, the taxes in advance and all that good stuff. All that would show, and the title insurance should show that. And if you financed it, it's hard to imagine. Now, it's possible that if you went the cheap route, you could buy a title policy that only covered the bank's interest, not your own.
Mm-hmm.
That is not very smart, but people have been known to do that.
Mm-hmm. What would your first step be?
Well, I'd look through the papers and see if there's any reference to a title policy.
Yeah.
The likelihood is that the lawyer has destroyed his records. He's not obliged to keep them this long.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step is to contact your lawyer. If you have a title policy, by all means, I'd still contact the lawyer who closed for you.
Yeah, we were going to do that because we received notice from the courthouse that we're going to be served papers involved in a suit, as well as 4 other property owners who are adjacent to the property in dispute.
Oh, they're saying they're landlocked, is that it?
That's exactly what it is. They're landlocked.
How'd they get that way?
Well, I really don't know how they got that way because we had bought the property 17 years ago.
And it has nothing to do with it when you bought it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that you did have a search done.
Yes, we did.
You had it surveyed.
Yes, we had it surveyed.
The survey is certified to you.
Yes, it is.
There's nothing on the survey to indicate any kind of an easement.
No, nothing. Mm-mm.
Has anybody been going back and forth across your property?
No, they haven't. Apparently this has been in dispute for 20 years or more.
It sounds to me like they are on a major fishing expedition.
Yes, that's what it sounds like, too.
We both could be mistaken in that regard. But that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, when I contact the lawyer tomorrow again, I will ask him about the title insurance, but I don't remember that at that time, but I'll have to check out.
Well, get your file out.
Yeah.
You said you do have all the papers.
Right.
Well, in that file, that's where the policy ought to be, or at the very least, reference to it.
Right.
Because you had to pay for it. You know, when you go to the closing, there's so much for this, so much for that.
Right, right.
Well, the title policy be one of those things.
Yeah, I'd have to check that out, the safety deposit box. It's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
Well, that's what you're looking for. And I would hope that you have title insurance, because that at least would pick the legals up here.
Yeah.
How about the other 3 people? What do they have to say for themselves?
Well, they're kind of have a wait-and-see attitude to see what's going to happen as far as the lawsuit is involved. Our letter actually says that the piece of the property may actually be owned by so-and-so.
I understand. They can't make a definitive statement.
No.
But you see, it would seem to me that it might be at least worthwhile for you to invite your neighbors over for a cup of coffee and say, look, we're all in this tub together. why don't we throw in some money into a collective pot and get an opinion, because the opinion will be the same in all likelihood for all of us.
That's right. That's what we were thinking. If we seek legal advice, we should probably all have the same lawyer. Would you agree?
Yeah, but beyond, at least initially.
Right.
Now, there may be some reason to have separate counsel sometime in the future, but the point is that the initial exploratory voyage that the attorney is going to take is going to be the same for all four of you.
Right.
So why have somebody, four different individuals do that?
Right.
Would seem to me that you each throw a couple $100 into the pot. So let's say $250 a piece. That gives you $1,000. And the $1,000 you talk to an attorney and say, this is what we've got in our collective pockets, and this is what we'd like you to explore for us. But the first thing to do is start going through those papers.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I never even thought. I know where they are, but I didn't even think about it.
Well, that's the place to begin this little exploration.
Fishing expedition.
There you go.
Okay.
I do wish you well, dear.
Thanks a lot.
It sounds to me like a fishing expedition is underway. Dayton, Ohio. Hello there.
Hey, how you doing, Bruce?
Okay.
I got a question for you. I own a small newspaper.
What, a weekly?
It's a community-oriented newspaper.
Like a weekly?
Yeah, a weekly publication.
Okay.
And I also am the advertising manager. I handle all the advertising.
Do the windows, the floors, set the type, the whole thing?
I do all 9 yards. Well, what happened was we've been in business almost a year, and it's been well received, and we've been doing really good business. And about maybe 3 weeks ago, I was at a hot dog stand, and one of my friends said, "Have you seen the new paper in town?" I said, "No." So I turned around and bought a copy of it, and I take it up to my office, and I'm sitting down flipping through it, and I get to their classified page, and I'm like, man, these ads look familiar. Well, it turns out that they had gotten a copy of our paper and basically cut our ads out, ads that I designed myself for my clients, and basically pasted them up on their layout boards and ran them in their paper.
Without charging the clients?
Without charging the clients. What they did, I'm assuming, was they added 2 or 3 pages of our classified ads and our institutional ads to build up their paper to make it look like they had more business than they had. And I haven't contacted my lawyer or anything.
Well, I most certainly would. Looks to me like you got a copyright infringement there.
Yeah.
Your whole paper is copyrighted, is it not? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every issue, you copyright your paper before you print it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you stand by a minute, my friend. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. All righty, we go to Dayton, Ohio, where we're talking with a gentleman who has a modest-sized weekly newspaper. Well, the competitors came along and just took stuff directly out of his paper, pasted it up, and put it on the racks, right?
Yeah, and I looked for like the publisher's name. It has the publisher's name and everything, but they don't even have a phone number listed in their newspaper. And I didn't even know how to get in contact with the publisher or whoever handles their advertising to find out why they're doing this.
I know. We both know why they're doing it.
Well, I know why they're doing it, but I didn't know if my paper is copyrighted, but I didn't know if I had any legal way of keeping them from...
Well, of course you do. They violated the copyright.
Okay.
I mean, when you copyright something, you copyright it in its entirety.
All right.
Now, obviously, let's assume for the sake of discussion that there's an AP story in there. And they subscribe to the Associated Press. They have a right to use the same story. We both know that.
Right.
But we're talking about original stuff that you created.
Yeah, design.
Well, no, stop. Let's not gild the lily here. There's stuff that you created.
Right.
And they shot it and printed it. They have no right to do that.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I had every right to
I don't think you should contact them.
Really?
No, I think your attorney ought to contact them and tell them that he's going to go, unless they immediately agree in writing to stop this nonsense, that he's going to go to court and get a cease and desist order.
Well, what should I do
restraining order?
What should I do about advertisers that might, my advertisers that might pick up this paper and see?
Well, look, it's a practical matter. Your advertiser's not going to be unhappy.
Okay.
Why should he be?
Yeah, I understand that.
Well, then don't mess with your advertiser.
Okay. Well, since I have you on the phone, can I ask you one more question?
Sure, because you understand the advertiser got a freebie.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I thought of.
Well, then leave them alone.
Okay, I was just thinking about something. Dayton is a nice-sized town. We got nice restaurants and everything, but there's no type of delivery service for restaurants in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of places are doing this where they deliver for half a dozen or a dozen restaurants.
Yeah, well, my thought was possibly putting something together like that, since I have some extra office space, running like a courier service.
Well, it's not office space. You need a lot more than that. You need people to deliver to.
Well, yeah, I know, but what I was thinking is, how would you go about charging something? I know you'd probably charge
You charge the restaurant a percentage of the, let's say it's a dinner.
Right.
Probably 30% of the cost of the dinner, and then on top of that, you charge so let's say it's a $10 dinner.
Right.
You get $3 in the restaurant.
Okay.
And on top of that, you get delivery charge from the customer of a couple dollars.
So I would get a percentage of the dinner plus a delivery charge to the customer.
That's correct.
That I collect from the customer.
That's correct. And check out some of the other cities that are doing this. There are lots of places that are doing it.
Yeah, it just hit me today, and I was like, man, I really got to call Bruce.
Well, it's not a new idea, but it's one that's working a lot of places.
Well, yeah, it was something that I was talking to a friend of mine that owns a restaurant downtown, and he was like, man, I love this business, but I wish I could get people farther away from downtown.
Well, but you have an investment to make, you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
What's your investment?
Huh?
What is your investment?
Well, I'd have to pay for couriers.
Yeah, what else?
Insurance.
Yep. You got to advertise.
Advertise. I understood all that, but how would I go about
on top of that,
feasibility study to find out if the restaurateurs would really want a service?
Talk to them. Get on your horse and walk out and knock on the doors.
Okay.
That's the only way you can. There's nothing very fancy about that. Hey, my name is Sam Smith, and we're thinking about starting a service in this area, and here's how it'll work. Are you interested? And your obligation is to provide the food. We'll take the orders on the telephone. We'll call them into you. You have to put our material, the signs in your window, and so available through the, restaurant speedy delivery service or whatever name you come up with, that kind of stuff. But the only way you're going to find out is to rap on their wood. And that's not the worst thing in the world either. All righty, to Belleville, Illinois. Hello there.
Hello, Bruce. Thanks
Hi.
for taking my call.
You're most welcome.
I guess I need some advice. We had some heating and air conditioning equipment installed in our house last year. And at the time of installation, the company that provided this service gave us one price of a cash price as well as another price, of a monthly payment price. Okay, we've, since then, the first payment wasn't due until this year.
What was one of these, no cash until
the first payment was due the summer of this past year of 94.
And when was it installed?
I'm sorry?
And when was the installation done?
Last year.
Well, last year could have been December or January.
No, a year ago exactly.
I see. So first year was theoretically interest-free.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, and the amount of the payments are roughly $500 more than what that cash price is. Interest over the monthly payments over 12 months' time.
All right. So it's $500 interest.
Right.
For actually, it's over 2 years' time, isn't it?
Well,
you got 1 year theoretically free.
Right.
And then, so it's over 2 years' time.
Correct. Now,
how much is the principal?
The principal was roughly $1,600, something like that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Since then, we have made a couple of payments, and we're late on 2 payments. Because of the tardiness of the payments, they're requiring the total balance due.
Yeah, it's a callable loan because you're in default.
Is it okay? I
almost all loans are set that way. When you go into default, the entire balance is due.
Okay, it doesn't say that in the agreement or anything like that. That's why I was
curious. Are you sure? Are you sure it doesn't say that? Because that would be very...
I can tell you the exact terms. I'm reading it. One payment due on a certain day of the month of X amount of dollars.
What does it say about default?
I'm sorry?
What does it say about default?
It does not say anything.
Never address the topic in a note?
Nothing. This agreement is on a proposal on the letterhead of the company that provided the service.
You never signed the note?
I'm sorry?
And you never signed the note?
I signed this proposal.
That's it?
Which is just basically a secretary that typed it up.
Wait a minute. You never signed anything else other than the proposal?
No, sir.
You're sure?
I'm positive. And now I've got a small claim suit against me for the balance.
Mm-hmm. That's a very unusual way to do business.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but we're talking about a year ago. You know, it'd be very easy for you to forget the fact that you also signed a note.
Well, I mean, I could have forgotten, but I am 99.9%.
Well, you're going to know when you get to court.
Right. Well, I guess my question was, what if I don't have an attorney?
You're not going to use an attorney for something like this. It doesn't pay.
I've never been involved in a lawsuit before.
All we're talking about is should the credit be extended, or should you be declared in default and the entire amount due, which is standard in most notes.
Right.
Now, in the absence of that language, I don't know how the judge is going to rule.
Okay.
The first question the judge is going to ask you is, why didn't you pay on time? Mm-hmm. What's your answer?
Well, one would be in their billing system, they send a statement just periodically. I mean, it's not on a regular basis, and the amount due has always been the entire balance. There's never been anything that says, X amount of dollars is due by this date.
All right, let's turn it around.
Okay.
I'm playing judge here. So.
Okay.
You did say you made a payment or two.
Right.
How did you come up with that number?
I divided the amount of the entire balance by the amount of months that were on that.
And why didn't you continue to do that in the absence of anything else?
I'm sorry?
Why did you not continue to do that in the absence of any other activity?
We basically just fell behind.
But that's not a good answer.
Okay.
Why did you fall behind?
Lack of funds.
Well, you just didn't have any money.
Exactly.
What bills did you pay?
That's a good question.
Well, these are the questions the judge is liable to ask you, Tiger.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Right. And I appreciate that because, like I said, I've never been involved in anything like this, and I'm looking for any kind of advice.
Well, you're going to have to tell the court that you just don't have the money to pay. You're willing to make the payments, but you don't have the principal amount.
Mm-hmm.
They're still liable to order you to pay it, but I doubt it. They'll probably just say, go forth, and then when they'll ask you how much you can afford, and sin no more. But it's really not much point in getting the judgment against you. You've already acknowledged the debt. They can't repossess the air conditioning.
Right.
But just have the answers for the judge.
Okay.
I do wish you well.
Thank you very much.
I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Walla Walla, Washington. Boy, that just kind of rolls off your tongue. Yes.
How you doing tonight, Bruce?
It sounds like a train out. Walla Walla, Washington.
It's real tough to tell people where you live.
Kissimmee, Florida.
Bruce, we were planning a trip, my wife and I, and we reserved a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And our trip was changed, and we called up that night to cancel our reservation.
What time did you call?
5:30.
Well, it's important because most hotels, 6 o'clock is the cancellation time.
Okay, it was before 6 o'clock, and if I remember them saying it was like 4 o'clock was their cancellation time.
Well, was it after 4 or before 4?
It was after 4 that week.
Well, then you're STUCK.
Even though we weren't explained any of this stuff.
Well, but you're supposed to ask. You guaranteed it with your credit card, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, then you got to ask what are the terms of the guarantee. See, for example, if you go to some resort areas, they require 48 hours on a cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
You go into a town like Dallas or Chicago or New York, cosmopolitan city, where there's a lot of business activity, unless you're talking about some highly specialized hotel, generally speaking, you can cancel before 6. Now, if it was 4 in that hotel, that's their time.
Even though there was no contract,
There is a contract. The contract was, let's turn the thing around a little bit. Suppose you showed up and they didn't have a room for you. What would you say then? Well, if they say, well, look, there's no contract, Mr. So-and-so, what the hell? Go sleep in the...
That's happened before.
Well, of course it's happened. But you'd still be a little irate, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, it cuts both ways. We were 3 weeks ago, it seems like an eternity ago, when we were out in Los Angeles for the National Association of Broadcasters Convention.
Mm-hmm.
That hotel was as screwed up as Hogan's goat. There were 40-odd people, including me, in our party that didn't have a reservation. Although we had confirmed reservations in our hands, in our paws. It was just obscene what was going on out there.
Let me turn this around to you. I'm a physician, and
okay.
If a patient does not show up for their exam,
right?
There are certain doctors that charge these patients.
They have big old signs right in their office.
what happens if you call up in advance? Call on the phone. You can't see the sign.
Well, the point is that the physicians, I understand your analogy, but I'm not sure it's one that holds up too strongly.
No, it doesn't.
Well, the reason I say that is because it is customary in the hotel business, Lord knows I stay in a lot of hotels, to either you have a non-guaranteed reservation, which they release usually at 6 o'clock. But if that's not written in stainless steel anyplace.
Right.
Or a guaranteed reservation. You don't show up, you still pay for the room.
Okay.
So those are the two environments that I'm familiar with. And
absolutely no getting around it then.
And I don't see how.
Okay.
I generally guarantee my rooms because, planes are late and all that kind of good stuff.
You have no choice, though.
And I've on occasion had to pay for 2 rooms. The one that I guaranteed in City A and the one that I slept in City B. And you think that's a joke? I can think of, I'm not going to share the event, but I missed a very important event because my plane was in its takeoff roll and the engine blew up. Pow!
Just smart thinking.
And, well, I was glad that the engine blew up then, not 30 seconds later. I could have spoiled a lot more in the hotel reservation. But the point is that it was too late for me to unguarantee a room, and I still didn't want to sleep in the street in the city where I was in, so I wound up with 2.
Sure.
What city were you going to, Doc?
We're going to Bend, Oregon.
Well, that's a relatively small place, and I believe, don't they do some resort stuff there?
It's a very resort town, and it was on Memorial Day weekend. So.
Oh, for pity's sake. No, resort weekend, usually it's 24 to 48 hours. They're pretty generous at 4 o'clock.
But that's what I was thinking, that they were going to be able to book the room, not a problem. Is there any way to find out, even if they did move, they were full that night, they were
able to... It has nothing to do with anything.
Okay,
Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your call. Well, let's see. It's time to take a little time out here on a pre-election night. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Jacksonville, Florida. You've been very patient. Welcome to my world.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. How are you today?
I am just fine, thank you.
Great. I've got extremely nervous in the last 30 seconds. I've never been coast to coast before.
Well, hey, listen, everybody got up a first time.
You're exactly right. Listen, let me tell you what my situation is. I have been working as a temporary employee for an agency and got a job through a company here in Jacksonville, Florida. I worked there for about 6 weeks, and lo and behold, I got called into manager's office today, and they're offering me a job. It's basically what I want. It's just an entry-level position. It's really my first job. I've graduated college in the past couple of years and did a year of graduate school, and this is really like my first real deal.
Out in the adult world, huh?
Exactly right. Although I'm an adult, that's the bad thing about it.
Oh, no longer a people in training.
Exactly. Not a lad anymore, without a doubt. But I've basically accepted the job, but I go into her office tomorrow to discuss the all-important salary and the different packages and so.
All right.
And I just need to find out what should I go in there prepared with, and
look,
maybe
you've been hanging around this candy store for 6 weeks, you told me.
Exactly right.
Well, you must have some knowledge of when you're talking to your friends over at a coffee pot or whatever, what they offer.
Exactly right. I'm pretty solid with that. My question is, I'm the temporary agency who I was employed through gets paid much more an hour than what I was receiving.
Well, that's not material.
Okay.
That's the nature of a temp. And that's the downside from the employer point of view. On the upside is they can get rid of you on a daily basis. They don't have to set you up in any kind of a benefits plan and so on and so forth. And that's the reason for that.
Exactly.
So that really has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, so it wouldn't even be appropriate for me to name my asking price, something that was equivalent to what they were paying to the temporary agency?
Well, if you can pull that off, my friend, I want you to give up the job, quit in a hurry, and give Siegfried and Roy a shot for their money.
Okay.
Or David Copperfield, because you're one hell of a magician.
All right, well, we'll see if I can pull a trick.
Let's talk about the job a little
Okay.
bit. What kind of a job is this?
It is a copy room manager for it's a credit card services company, in fact, and it's been around for a while, but it's under new management, and really great things are happening to the company. There's a lot of
terrific.
growth.
I got you.
Okay.
How many are you going to be supervising anybody?
About 3 or 4 employees, and probably 2 or 3 temporary employees as well.
Fine. Now, this is kind of an entry management level position, right?
Exactly.
How much in Jacksonville, Florida, generally speaking, would you expect to earn in that capacity? Forgetting about any prior knowledge you have.
Okay, I would say probably about 22,000 in that range.
Now, how much an hour are they paying you? Is the temp agency receiving from the company?
The temp agency is receiving $11.50 an hour for my service.
All right, so that's 40 times 10. That's only what am I thinking here? Help me, Bruce.
I had a problem with it too.
Well, no, it's only $440 a week or something like
exactly.
that. $20,000 a year.
Right, not a huge amount of money.
So it's pretty close anyway.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying, because anything lower is, I don't want to say it's not worth my time, because, I'm very
Well, no, wait a while.
for the company.
First of all, how old are you?
I am 29 years old.
All right, so you're looking for an entry-level job. Secondly, when you sign on full-time, and the likelihood is there's going to be a benefits package, which you don't get right now.
Exactly, you're correct.
That's got some value, and perhaps most important, you're getting your foot in some kind of a corporate door.
You're correct.
Even if you were making more money as a temp, over the long pull, you're probably better off as a regular employee.
Yes, sir.
Because you are getting your foot in the door as a it's a redundancy, but as a regular, as opposed to somebody who's here today and gone tomorrow.
Exactly.
So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Now, the other thing we still haven't addressed, and maybe you have, but you didn't mention to me, is who's paying the agency's fee.
That is paid through the company that I will be signing on full-time with.
They're going to pay the extra money to the agency.
Oh, no, I don't know. You're talking about once they've hired me away from the agency?
Oh, there's definitely a fee due. The agency probably, in this case, $1,500, $2,000.
Okay, that end of the deal has not been discussed with me in the least.
Well, you most certainly ought to just address it, because you signed something, whether you realize it or not,
okay,
saying that if you take a permanent job with anybody they send you to, you owe a fee.
Okay.
Of a couple of grand.
Okay, now I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly. Now, this was a temporary agency that finds temporary employees.
That's correct. And when you signed up with them, you agreed, in all likelihood, I wasn't there, but you agreed if you took a permanent job, then they would be entitled to a very substantial fee. Somebody got to pay it. Dean Everett twisting the dials this evening. Walter Armstrong in Master Control. Big Paul Hill, our operations manager, and of course, Redoubtable Dan, our producer. Hey, it's not easy, kids, but give it your best shot. Try and do what's right, huh? I'm Bruce Williams. Keep in touch. All righty, we go to Ithaca, NY. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I just want to say, Bruce, I really appreciate your good advice you give us year after year on homes and business and travel and everything.
Well, you're a very generous guy. Thank you.
I've got a home buying question for you.
Let's talk.
Well, I'm totally new at this sort of thing.
Everybody got to do it the first time.
That's right. I'm just finishing a PhD.
Mm-hmm. What's your discipline?
Pardon me?
What is your discipline?
Microbiology. It's fun.
Speak to me in microbiology. Never mind.
Well, as a matter of fact, I like to listen to you when I'm in the lab in the evenings. So I listen to you just about every night. I have for 5.5 years doing my PhD.
Son of a gun. I hope we've been some help. What's on your mind, guy?
Well, I just got back from New Mexico, where I was offered a job.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very, very, very tight housing market there.
What part of New Mexico?
It's Los Alamos.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
Yes, it is.
Near Santa Fe. And I guess, according to the realtors, there's only 20 or 30 home listings in the entire city of 18,000.
Mm-hmm.
So prices are high, as you can imagine.
Well, it's right now, it's a seller's market, is what you're saying.
Definitely.
Sure.
So we found a house that we can probably afford. I mean, it's less, actually, than what we're in now as far as a house, nice house to live in.
That'll happen. Of course, but the price of housing will vary dramatically from area to area. Where you could buy a palace in parts of Florida where you'd get a modest home in Southern California.
Well, I've definitely seen that in job interviews around the country.
Sure.
It varies incredibly.
So what is this house going to cost? Tell me.
$147,000 is what they're asking.
Let's make it $150 for the sake of this discourse.
Okay.
And you married?
Yes, I've got 4 kids.
Mm-hmm. Is your wife gainfully employed?
She has been.
Will she be? Will she be when you get down to Los Alamos?
Yes, but she'll have to look around down there.
Well, but the point is there will be some income. She's employable.
Yes.
And the kids are old enough where that can be done.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, they're all in school, so we're kind of free now.
Okay. How much do you earn?
This job will pay $41,000.
And how much do you have to put down from the house that you're currently in?
Well, I'm just renting now, but my
how much do you have to put down?
Well, you said from the house.
I assumed where I should not have.
Okay. Well, my mother is going to help me, bless her heart, with. She can do about 5% is all.
You're over your head. 5% would be $7,500.
Right.
You'd have a mortgage of round numbers $142,000.
Right.
That's 3.5 times your income.
That's too much.
Way too much.
What's the ballpark then?
2.4, 2.5 at the most. And that's stretching. And your case even less because you have so many mouths to feed.
Right.
I can identify with that. You know, as you know, we had 5 children. So I can identify with, putting beans and grits on the table.
Yeah.
And education and all the rest of those things.
So you're saying that I wouldn't be able to qualify?
Well, you might qualify, but you'd be in a constant struggle.
Uh-huh.
Now it depends in some, and I don't think you would qualify very candidly.
Uh-huh.
Not with 5 points down, 150 with $40,000 income on top of all that. We have to start talking about your wife. Well, what could she reasonably expect to earn?
That's a good question. She's my accountant. Well, she doesn't want to work full time. I don't either. I don't want her to work full time if we can help it because we have the 4 kids. So maybe $700 a month to $1,000 a month.
Let's say 1,000. Be real generous. You're still over your head.
Okay. Well, that'd be 41.51.
Yeah, 50,000. But you're still at 3 times your income.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man.
Too much.
That's heavy.
Well, it's been a shock, really. The house that I could get there for $140, I'm sure I could get here for around $90.
Yeah.
It's a little starter house.
And if you went to California, you'd probably pay another $100,000 for the same house.
Right, I know.
Parts of California.
I know that.
And if you went to parts of Mississippi, you could probably buy it for $40,000.
Yeah. So I should keep it to around 2.5.
I'm sorry, 2.5 times, not 2,500.
Right, 2.5.
Yeah, I was thinking. I think you should be looking somewhere around 100,000.
Ooh.
Tough to find.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, really tough.
What would it do? Can you rent something there for the time being?
Well, that's the worst part. Evidently, now I've spoken to the real estate people there, and there's a rental company. They say there's nothing at all, and there's nothing in the paper.
Well, let's talk about this now. You said this is in. Tell me again.
Los Alamos.
Los Alamos, the home of the atomic bomb.
That's right, Atomic City.
Yeah. How far is that from someplace else?
Well, Santa Fe is 38 miles.
Well,
it's about as expensive, they say.
Well, have you looked? Because Santa Fe certainly is a much bigger community.
I have looked at the listings, and then I've talked to my realtors. Of course, mine, I imagine, are going to have a stake in keeping me buying around there. But
let me ask you this. My sense of geography is terrible, so let's start with that, all right?
Okay.
But I've driven from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. Now, if we drew a straight line between those two, where does Los Alamos work in here? Further or a different direction or what?
Well, it's west of Santa Fe.
What I'm trying to get to is how far would you be from the Albuquerque area? Because I know you can get houses there for less money.
It would be 2 hours from Albuquerque.
Well, forget about that.
No, it'd have to be
100 miles?
Oh, or more.
Is that right?
It's 40 miles to Santa Fe. Now, I don't know how far is Santa Fe from Albuquerque, about
I've forgotten.
50 or 60.
Yeah, it's a good hike.
Yeah. So that's a bit far.
Well, what are other people doing that make the kind of money you're making living in that area?
Well,
you're going to be working in some kind of an academic environment, I would assume.
Yes, Well, at the laboratory there.
Well, how about the rest of the folks working in the lab? Where do they live? How do they afford it?
Well, they're mainly buying. There are these government houses there, little boxes that were built in the 40s when Oppenheimer came in and they started the bomb project,
Right.
And those have been, most of them have been remodeled somewhat, and so...
What do they sell for?
Well, I guess it depends on the size. Actually, this is one of those houses.
That's all right.
Only it's a 4-bedroom. See, I've got to have a 4-bedroom. Now there are.
No, you don't have to have a 4-bedroom.
Well, yeah, you're right.
It would be nice to have a 4-bedroom, but I can tell you from personal experience, I didn't have 4 bedrooms.
Well,
with 5 kids.
It'd be tough to come out of grad school with a PhD from an Ivy League university, you know, and then say, okay, guys, we got to cut back now even more to a 3-bedroom.
Well,
I mean, I can do that, obviously. But
I mean, how old are your children?
They go from 14 down to 5.
You see, maybe you and I differ a little bit.
Well,
I never ran a democracy. I don't ever recall asking their opinions on those matters.
No, I'm not saying I'd ask.
No, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Look, I think it'd be...
my wife always says to me, which is true.
Well, you know, it would be great if you could give them all their own bedroom, and but if you can't, there's no reason to have a guilt trip.
Right.
And for you and your wife to have to watch every single penny to provide this little extra room for your kids, in my opinion, is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no... I guess what I'm trying to say to you, however poorly, there's absolutely no reason to be in a guilt trip about that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you owe the kids each their own bedroom and all this jazz. It's nice if one can provide it. Please don't misunderstand me. I don't believe that you owe it to them.
Well, you're right. It's my own guilt trip.
Yeah.
I live in a really beautiful place, and I'm going to have to squeeze them into a little house with a little yard as it is. So I'm trying, even to get this $145,000 house, I'm feeling a little, as you say, guilty. Not just on their part, but...
Well, the only other alternative is your bride making a decent income working full-time.
Yeah.
Then you can swing it.
Yeah, what about...
Now we're into values and price, and I'm not in any way editorializing. I will editorialize to this extent. I think it's a crime in this country that it takes 2 incomes to provide a decent home.
Yeah, that seems.
I think that's a crime. Oh hell! When I was in college as an undergraduate, I bought my own home, and my wife was not employed gainfully. When I was a sophomore in college, I bought the house. You never expect a kid in college to do that today. I mean, just the system has changed, and I think it's a bad change, but that's another matter.
What's changed? I've been wondering that very thing, actually.
Well, you made it. All right, let's talk about that just for a moment, shall we? We'll sneak around the corner. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. That's a young man in Ithaca, New York. He is moving to Los Alamos, New Mexico. Has 4 children. He hopes. He's received his terminal degree in an esoteric area and got a job and so on and so forth. Everything is okay to that extent. So far, so good. But he's running up against a serious problem that I think this country may or may not face, and that is that it takes 2 incomes frequently to support one family, and the primary offender is the cost of housing. Is that a fair statement?
Definitely.
Okay. And you said, well, how can that be? And I said, we were talking, I said, I purchased my first home. And I was a sophomore. Now, understand, I was not a traditional sophomore. I was a veteran. So I was 27, I think, something like that. 26, somewhere in that ballpark. But I had 1 child. I keep saying I. You don't do those things alone. We had.
Unless you're cloning yourself, Bruce.
Well, that's another program. I mean, I am no longer married, but we were married for a long time, and we raised 5, I think, very, very nice people. But in any event, we purchased our first home when I was a sophomore. Had 1 child, and we always had 1 on the way. Now, I remember buying, I can't tell you the exact number, but it was something between $10,000 and $11,000 for the house. I got a 4.5% GI loan, if memory serves me, mortgage. But that was a competitive rate in those days. I was making $80 a week working at the college, and I was getting $160 a month on the GI Bill. And people can say, well, that's welfare. I don't think so. I think I earned that money. In fact, I know damn well I earned that money with my body. But that's another... But it didn't seem to be very generous. At that time, you only got paid for 1 kid.
Oh.
After you have 1, you got $160 What was 110 if you're single, 135 if you're married, 160 if you're married, one child, that was it. And that was only during the academic months, by the way. My payments for that house at 16 Old Stage Road were $98 a month, everything in. Taxes, insurance, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
So it was well within my ability to pay. Now, let's take a sophomore at the same college today. Well, that house right now is about $75,000, $80,000. Probably a little more than that, but let's say it's $80,000 in today's world, okay? All right, to have an $80,000 house, the guy's going to have to make at least, I'll be generous, say $30,000. It should be near $35,000. In other words, the same college kid today, to buy the exact same home that I lived in, would have to earn $35 or $700 a week and go to college full time.
Impossible.
Just about impossible. That's right.
Just to get a job.
Yeah. So you see, it's no great. In fact, there's no credential for me that I did that because I was a product of my time and it could be done. It's unreasonable to ask somebody to do those things today. Now, why is housing so expensive? There's only one reason.
Okay.
One major reason. There are other reasons. It's government.
How's that?
Because government restricts the amount of housing that can be built through zoning. Where you live in Ithaca, New York, or you go down to Los Alamos or any place else. Now, it's oftentimes not spoken, but trust me, I was there. You may know I was a mayor of my community for a while, on the council, all kind of good stuff. And it was the constant, we don't want them here. You know who them is? Them was my kids.
Anybody who's not already there.
That's right. Last man in, slam the door. You got it. And one of the things I suppose I did, and maybe a lot of people in town don't like it very much, and I'm not even sure I agree with it, my own personal interest, is I was pushing for lots of housing. I didn't want to see it controlled by government. I wanted to see the marketplace control the cost of housing. And I got to tell you something. It brought the cost of housing. When we opened the floodgates, no question, a lot of people, including me, got hurt. Where the prices went down. But that's the way to force price down. But you wind up with zoning that says you have to conform with a BOCA code, and you got to put this in and that in, and you have to have lots of a certain size. If you put 10 houses on an acre, it's geometrically less expensive to sewer that acre than it is if you put 10 houses on 1 acre apiece. It costs less to build the streets, it costs less to build the water lines, and so on and so forth. Now, the argument is, yeah, but then you got to educate the children and so on. That's another story. I don't disagree with those arguments. But the point is, one of the great reasons that housing is so expensive for the young people today is you are being screwed by your government. And you know what the sick part of that is? You're letting it happen. Because you guys have the votes. Today's election day. If every young person out there voted not Republican, not Democrat, but they voted in their own parochial self-interest, you can control things. I have a home. I don't live there anymore. I do spend a couple of days a month there, sort of midway between Princeton and Rutgers University. If the kids in those universities would put their stupid signs down talking about their sexual proclivity or free some obscure nation someplace, and they got involved in local politics, they could outvote the communities of New Brunswick and Princeton easily. There are more of them than there are townies. But that's never going to happen. They're too busy prancing up and down with their signs and the rest of it. Now, if everybody at the university level, you just came out of academia, everybody, undergrads, 18 years old, locally registered to vote, wow, what an impact you have on those college towns. That would put the fear of God in the local residents. I'm not suggesting that's what should have happened, but I am suggesting that the kids fought like hell to vote at 18. It was totally meaningless. Totally meaningless. Because they don't vote anyway. As a group, they got other things in their mind. And until such time as the young people vote as a group, voting young, voting what's in your own parochial self-interest, you deserve what you get. You can bet your life the people out at Wrinkle City, the retirement community, 95% of them are going to vote And you can also bet your life that the politicians are going to listen. And that's as it should be. You reward those people who perform. Good luck, my friend. You're off to a new adventure, and I do wish you well with it. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Hello to WFLA Country, otherwise known as Tampa, Florida. Hello there.
Good evening, Bruce. Well, I was going to first start off by trying to say something wonderful about you, but
don't. That's pretty hard to do.
Is that you make me look forward to getting older.
What? Well, hold it. I'm not so sure I like that. What does that mean?
Oh, I'm assuming you're probably, I'd say 15 years my senior.
Well, I'm 15 years everybody's senior.
Well, that's beside the point. But if you die and they ever perfect brain transplants, I would love to have yours.
Well, that's very generous. Tell you that, they say everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. I'm right at the head of that line. What's on your mind, Guy?
I bought an automobile about 3 weeks ago. Bit the big one, and bought a brand new car here at a local dealership. It's only the second new car I bought. The last one I bought was a used automobile, but I've had some problems with the automobile in the form of driving comfortably. The car, putting it bluntly, it shimmies. As I approach just above what is the legal speed limit here on the interstates at 65 miles an hour, at around 65 to 70, the car feels as if it goes out of balance.
Ford product?
No, sir.
Okay.
But I've taken it back to them on 3 separate occasions. The third time, told them I felt like the car was unsafe. It rained here one day. I went I know you're familiar because you've got a place here locally that I frequent and do enjoy, from the crosstown onto 75 South.
Mm-hmm.
And the car, when it rains, it'll actually shimmy so bad that it'll lose traction.
But you get more of a shimmy when it's raining.
I get more of a shimmy as I go around the curve.
There are several things that can cause what you're describing. Obviously, if you get a problem, is front or rear wheel drive?
Front wheel. I've taken it back of them. They've checked the bearings. They've checked the alignment. They've checked the balance. They took the tires off the automobile, put other tires on there. They put a hard top on the vehicle, and they even went under the car and said that they had left a couple of brackets off the exhaust from the manufacturer, and they attached those brackets, and the car still does it. And now they tell me I'm crazy.
You're crazy.
I'm at the point that I'm ready to go ahead with the lemon law, but tomorrow I have an appointment with another outside alignment shop to go through the car head to tail, so that I have it in writing.
But be very careful what you do there.
I'm not going to let them do anything to void the warranty.
That's what I was about to point out.
But what I do want them to tell me is if it's the tires or what they suspect it being. And that way, put it in writing and take it back to them.
Let me take a little time out here. And just if we get real lucky, what kind of car is it?
It's a Mazda Miata.
Maybe we get real lucky here and find somebody out there who's had a similar problem, or somebody in the mechanics business, because it's certainly way over my head. Number is 703-413-8381. 703-413-8381. If there's a mechanic out there that knows what this might cause this, we got a new Mazda with a front-wheel drive, has a high-speed shimmy. They've done the balancing act. They've changed the bearings. I assume they've checked the tires to see there's no belt slippage, and that's hard to believe in 3 weeks' time. All the more obvious stuff. But if you're in the mechanics business, I'll bet there's somebody out there who might have an idea. 703-413-8381. We'll take a little time out, and I hope you get on the horn. Don't leave it for the other guy to do. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. I am chatting with a gentleman in Tampa, Florida. He's got himself a brand new car with still got a lot of shake, rattle, and roll. And we did have a couple folks call. One lady called, her husband called, but he couldn't. He called her, and he said, "Did you check the tie rod ends?"
I have. I'm not sure as to exactly what all they have actually checked.
Well, he said that's one you ought to check. And another guy called, and he said, even though your tires are brand new, they could be defective. And that's something that I think I mentioned a moment ago. You get a slip belt or something of that order and a brand new tire. That can put the thing sadly out of balance, and it might not show up unless you have a high-speed environment.
Well, hopefully I'll find that out tomorrow. The question, though, is if it turns out to be something that is actually an inherent flaw with the automobile, and I do decide to go with the forward with the lemon law,
right.
I've got a certified letter drafted, ready to send them. Should I get an attorney involved?
No, I don't think so. Not this
Because what they've told me when I told them the last time I took it away, it was the third time I had taken it in. I mentioned the lemon law to them, and they got all huffy. And I told them,
as huffy as they want. Who cares?
Well, he got one of the managers got his feathers in a ruffle. Said, you own the car, it's yours, you're stuck with it.
Well, you tell him to take that one and put it in a very dark spot.
He tried to explain that I would have to go through an arbitration process.
I was about to point that out to you, that you might want to, first of all, call Tallahassee and get hold of the lemon law. They usually have a booklet. I don't know if Florida provides it. Most states do.
Yes, sir. They gave me a copy of the lemon law.
Kind of a plain language book?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Find out what you have to do in order to qualify. It usually means so many visits and all that sort of jazz. That's number one. Second thing is that you might want to consider, I think should consider, Better Business Bureau arbitration. It's binding on the company. It is not binding on you. But then you got to go in there and decide what is it you want. How many miles in this car?
I've got about 1,700 now.
In 3 weeks?
I drive 100 miles each way to work.
Ooh. Well, you see, if they can't correct it, you might ask in arbitration. You want another vehicle, but you'll pay so much a mile for the miles you put on it. That's a possibility. But I don't know what your lemon law provides, but you should know before you go talking to these guys precisely what your rights are.
Well, they put probably 300 miles on the car, trying to figure out what was going on.
That can be adjusted too. But the Better Business Bureau arbitration, more often than not, comes down in favor of the consumer as contrasted with the automobile company. I wouldn't be afraid of that.
Well, once again, you've done me right.
I do wish you well, my friend.
Take care, Bruce.
Take good care. We go to Columbus, Ohio. Hello there. It's your turn. Welcome.
Good evening, Bruce. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thank you, guy. Happy Election Day.
Well, I just want to say happy Veterans Day later this week to all the veterans out there.
There you go. Well, I'm a member of that club.
Well, so am I.
All righty.
Okay, I got a couple questions here. February 10th, I'm planning on going on a family cruise to the Eastern Caribbean.
All right. From where?
From Miami.
Okay.
And this is our first cruise. It's going to be Mom and Dad and my brother and I. So there's no little children involved.
All right.
Do I need a passport?
Yes.
Okay.
And don't let anybody romance you about, driver's license. Get a passport.
Okay.
You have to have a photo ID. If you don't have a passport, most of the lines will require a photo ID with a raised seal on a birth certificate and all this. Passport is a good thing to have. It's good for 10 years.
Okay. And what's your opinion on trip cancellation insurance?
Depends in large measure on the distance out, and you're a pretty long way out, and the age and health of the individuals involved, and other variables. If you book a cruise a month and a month before you're going to go, and you're 30 years old, and you go out and run marathons, I think that the cancellation insurance is largely an expense you can avoid.
Okay.
If you're 70 years old and your health is precarious, it's crazy not to take it.
Okay.
Because a million things could happen.
Okay.
It's about 5% of the cost, by the way.
Okay. I'm planning on taking a still camera, but what about a video camera?
Well, this is a personal prejudice. Here we go. It seems to me to waste all of your time peering through a video camera and not seeing it yourself is foolish.
Okay.
And I just returned from a cruise this week. Well, I was on a cruise last week. And it was, to me, it's pathetic to see people just constantly staring through that viewfinder.
Okay.
I remember when I was in Alaska on a cruise, I was thinking, these guys haven't seen one thing except what they see through a viewfinder. And you don't get the same effect. Now, if you're the kind of person who has discipline and you really dig the video, take it along. To me, you couldn't hire me to take one.
Okay, well, I just don't want to get stuck dragging the thing around the whole time.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Who needs it?
Okay.
Little old, relatively idiot-proof camera. It takes pretty good pictures.
Okay.
What ports of call are you aimed at, or do you know?
Nassau. Well, yeah, Nassau, Coco Cay. I don't know if Labadee is on Haiti.
Oh.
It's a port.
I would doubt Haiti is on there.
Okay, and San Juan and St. Thomas.
Is that the best itinerary you can find?
Well, it's the Eastern Caribbean. And
I understand Eastern Caribbean, but there's a lot of places in the Eastern Caribbean that you haven't mentioned that I would rather go to them. San Juan and St. Thomas you're going to find on just about every itinerary.
Okay.
But one of those things is the private island belonging to the cruise line, isn't it?
Right.
That, to me, is a total waste.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion, and a lot of people disagree with that.
Okay. I was looking forward to the southern cruise, but we're a little bit pressed for time. And
you're going for a week, right?
Pardon me?
You're going for a week.
Yeah, and I think the southern is 8 days.
No, you can go for cut me a break, really. You got a couple of options. One, you can go out of San Juan, not out of Miami. That's one option. You're a little closer to where you want to be is what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
And if at that time of the year, I would rather go, say, San Juan, St. Thomas, Barbados, Antigua, possibly Curacao, Aruba, maybe down to whatever the port city is for Caracas.
Okay.
Nassau, you can go there anytime. It's only a hop, skip, and a yodel off the coast. I mean,
okay, well, the Western was out of the question because I had a couple relatives go, and my brother and his new bride went on that. They didn't. They both had horror stories.
Well, I don't care for the Western Caribbean.
Okay.
You talk about Cozumel. The one place in the Western is the Cayman Islands are delightful.
Right.
They're delightful. But the rest of it, Jamaica and Cozumel and the rest of that stuff, Marsalan, it's not for me.
Okay.
But that's personal prejudice once again.
Okay.
But if I were setting up an itinerary for someone and I had the options at that time of the year, now you see we're talking about different times of the year. But if I were going to be going out in February, I'd much rather go to San Juan, because you're right in the heart of the Caribbean when you begin, and the weather's going to be guaranteed good as opposed to Miami, where it can get cold at that time of the year. And I would want to head for, as I mentioned, aside from St. Thomas, Barbados, Antigua, Curacao, in that part of the world, Grenada. There's a whole lot of good places to go. Nassau's okay, I guess, but it wouldn't be my top destination choice. And the private island, I've been to 2 or 3 of those, and to me, that's a total waste. Hey, it's been good, kids. Thank you for the hour. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Lear, North Dakota. Hello there. Welcome
Good evening,
to my
Bruce.
Hey,
I have listened to you forever, and I do appreciate you taking my call.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm older than dirt. That's why you listen forever.
Very fine. This is Everett here in the middle of North Dakota. I started a small homespun business in the 1990-91 period of about $50 a month gross business at that time.
Hold it. Say that again?
I started a homespun business in about 90-91.
Oh, homespun. Okay.
Yes, manufacturing antique radio parts.
Son of a gun. How'd you figure on that one?
Well, I'm an electronic man from way back. My trade school was started in 39. I'm 73 years old, the wife's 75.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have built this business up until we're in the low 5 figures now, and it is getting a little bit out of hand. And then the wife had a stroke in the last 6 months, which really threw a kink in the thing. And I feel I have to start thinking about disposing of the business. It is growing. We had over, I'd say, 50% increase in business during the last year gross.
Mm-hmm.
We do antique radio shows across the country, and we are not in the business to make it profit. We are growing the business, trying to enlarge it year after year.
Well, what do you mean you're not in the business to make a profit?
Because I'm trying to build up a business to sell. We've built an inventory up of 35 capacitor parts. That's all we're involved in is capacitors. They're for antique radios. And what has happened is with the wife having a stroke now, and I've only got one sub-assembly person on contract basis that does sub-assembly work.
Yeah.
We've got, the business has got us by the horns, and we can't even sleep that thing.
How much, look, all right, how much does it, if you were looking for a profit right now, how much does it make, what's it gross? You said over 100,000.
No, over 5 figures. We we've only built it up to the low five figures.
That's only like 10,000?
No, more than that. More than 20.
Well, all right. And how much of that can you put in your pocket at the end of the month, at the end of the year?
Let's say that we do a lot of traveling to shows, which we at 73 and 75 years really enjoy, and it does increase our business greatly.
Well, but there's not much to increase. You're only doing $400 a week.
Yeah. We've got 35,000 parts in inventory built up.
What are they worth?
I can't tell you that at this time. Probably $15, $20 all.
Well,
we haven't done inventory yet this year.
I don't think you have much to sell, Tiger.
This is what I'm asking you is for your advice. We do 1/3 of our business gross in making new parts, which we sell through a distributor. 1/3 of our business is selling new components, and then 1/3 roughly is rebuilding the.
But I don't mean to be unkind, but with all due respect, you got a nice hobby here.
I want it right from your shoulder.
You have a hobby. I don't think it has any great value.
Okay. The increase in gross in the past year doesn't sound like a.
Well, it's like saying, if you increase $1 by 100%, you still only got $2.
This is true. I wanted your advice because of our age and because of the wife having a stroke as to how to go about finding a buyer.
I think if you can sell the inventory, I think you're doing well.
Okay. I think that maybe will set me straight on our overall picture.
I do wish you well, my friend.
Thank you now. Bye.
My best to your wife. Odessa, Texas. Hello.
Yes, sir, Bruce. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Yes, sir.
About 5 years ago, my children's grandparents began giving them a gift of $10,000 a year, the minimum.
That's the maximum.
The max on the tax,
Yeah.
And it's put away specifically for their college education.
But whose name is this money in?
Well, it's in their Social Security number.
That's a mistake.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And we've got, she did it for all 4 of her grandchildren.
How much? But that's 4 times a mistake then. How much money is in each account?
But nearly $50,000.
In each one?
Right.
How old are the kids?
The oldest is about 16.
Okay. And when does this money become theirs? At 18, right?
Right.
What happens to the kid who's shooting dope or wants a fast car?
That's what we're more concerned with.
Well, you should be, because that's why I continually say on this program it's a major mistake to put money in children's names without strings.
How can we attach strings to it?
Too late.
It's too late.
Too late.
Okay.
It could have been done through a trust fund. It could have been done giving it to you, and you would to be trusted by your parents to spend the money appropriately on the kids.
Right.
But this way, when that kid turns 18, he can look you right in the blue eyes and say, "Hand me the keys to the box."
Right.
And you got to do it.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you very candidly, as one parent to another, if I had a kid that I knew he was going to do something bad with that money, I would say, "The heck with the law, sue me, kid." To my own child, I would say that.
Right.
Because it would take a couple of years or more for him to get at it that way.
Right.
Do you have? Let's be very clear now. Do you have one of the kids that you're a little concerned about?
No, it's just that as kids get older, even good kids.
Of course, in the best of families.
Right.
I try to make that clear. No reflection on sometimes reflection on parents, but in the best of families, some kids go wrong.
Okay, can you take their name off the account? No,
you may not. It's their money.
Okay.
Now, do the kids know the money is there?
All they know is that they have to pay taxes every year.
Why do they know that?
Well, they sign the tax form. They don't know how much they've got or any of that kind of stuff.
They're not stupid.
No.
They know there's money. They know there's money there.
Right.
Let's just hope the kids are good kids.
Okay.
That's about all you can do right now.
From now on, we need to change that and put it in a different account.
Well, you can't change what is.
Right.
To my knowledge.
Okay.
I wouldn't add to it in any way if it were me.
Okay.
I do wish you well, kid.
All right, thank you.
All righty. But that's just, in my opinion, very bad thing to do, to put money in. I know there's some tax advantages, however slight. Not smart. Des Moines, Iowa, your turn.
Yes, Bruce.
How you doing?
Well, hey, pretty good. Say, I had a question here on 401k that our company has started with us.
Yeah.
And we got a thing back that we
you contributed too much.
Yeah. The elected deferral was too much, and excessive contribution plus earnings on the excess. So that's a pretty standard thing, correct?
Well, if you put too much in and they pick it up, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You've taken a bigger shelter than the law allowed, that's all.
Well, it wasn't balanced by the company is the way they've explained this.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm not saying you did something deliberately, but if you...
Oh, no. They told us that this was probably upcoming. That the high-end employees was contributing, the low-end weren't. And it has to be balanced across so it's equal for everyone.
Everybody has to have the same access.
I see, exactly. So I just that was my first question. Now, on the other, so to put it in like to an IRA, see, part of the problem is our company runs on a fiscal to the end of September.
Say that one more time, please.
Our fiscal year goes to September.
Oh, I see. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. And so now, see, we just got this, the check's dated the 15th, and they just handed it to us like Tuesday.
Let's cut you off at the pass.
Yep.
This is not my area.
Now,
if I had the same problem, what do you suppose I would do?
Well, we probably better talk to a tax man.
I'd pick up my phone, that's right, call my accountant and say, Jay, guess what?
You bet.
And I'd hand the stuff to him, it's his problem, and I suggest you do the same thing.
I see.
This is an area that the tax laws are so incredibly complex. I mean, you could not carry all of the tax codes physically, unless you're one hell of a weightlifter.
Right.
And now, how can the average person, or even above average person, be expected to deal with that?
You betcha.
You can't. Any more than the average person could, even though you might be the brightest guy in the world. I don't think you're going to read all of the medical journals and whatever on never mind on the traditional stuff, but on the new things that come along every day, week, year, month, and whatever.
Exactly, because they change about that often.
It's organic, exactly so. What do you do for a living?
I'm in sales. I'm a paramedic by trade. Worked the streets a long time and in sales now.
Medical sales?
You bet.
Okay, well then you know exactly what I... Matter of fact, part of your job is to educate your customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
With things that are changing. Well, if they're changing in your field, isn't it a reasonable assumption they're changing in others? And certainly the tax area is one where even the people who are in the business of drawing the laws and enforcing them are frequently unclear as to what has to be done. Given that set of circumstances, I wash my hands of it. That's why I hire professionals.
All right.
In your case, I've got 10 seconds. That's it.
For an IRA, do I have till April to invest into my own?
I believe till April or when you file. You have to do it before you file. I do wish you well, Guy. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. We go now to St. Petersburg. Hello there. Welcome to Talknet.
Yes, sir. This is a very strange question I have, but before I go into the question, thought I'd let you know that I've been listening to you for over 10 years, and I've been enjoying your show quite a bit.
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that.
The problem that I have is that about 5 years ago, I sued my company on a discrimination charge.
All right. The company that you were then... I take it it's not the company you're working for now.
That is correct.
But the company you did work for, or tried to work for.
Right. Okay. And I was at the company for over 3 years. And then one day they just told me that I was incompetent and they didn't need my service.
In what capacity were you working?
I was working as an aerospace engineer, one of the highest level engineers at the company.
Okay.
I filed the discrimination lawsuit against the company, and we went through the deposition for about 2 months, had over 3,000 pages of deposition.
3,000?
Over 3,000 pages of deposition. That's right.
Boy.
I know. And finally, my attorney told me that I will have to settle for relatively small sum of money, which I thought was very small money.
What was the basis of your charge?
Basically, my supervisor had used lots of charges about ethnicity, and he had said that in public. And there were people at the company who had witnessed this, that I was singled out because of my national origin.
Where are you from?
India.
Okay.
And he had made a number of statements against India and Southeast Asia and those kind of things.
I see. So how much was did you set, or you were offered a settlement of how much?
About $40,000.
And what were you seeking?
$250,000. Now, what happened? Now, that is not the problem. The problem is that we settled for this about 2 years ago, and then an article appeared in Orlando newspaper stating with my name and the company that I worked for at the time that we settled for $1.6 million.
Oh, don't you love it?
And now, strangely enough, I found this out about a month ago, that the person who was also summoned for the deposition told me that my name and the company's name I worked for appeared with a settlement of $1.6 million.
How long ago was this?
The settlement occurred about 2 years ago.
No, I mean, how long was this newspaper article? 2 years ago?
About 2 years ago. About a month after we settled.
And you just became aware of it?
And I just became aware of it because I bumped into the person.
Okay. So where do we go with that?
Well, my question is, can this kind of things happen that attorneys can settle for one amount and then in turn my attorney would turn around and offer me $40,000 as opposed to $1.6 million?
Well, no, wait a minute. You're assuming that the 1.6 is an accurate number.
I am assuming that from the person who told me, who was also given the deposition and who was on my side during the deposition.
What are you alleging here?
I'm alleging that attorney probably settled for a very large sum and that he turned around and gave me very small sum. And he also told me that if I do not settle for this amount, then he had threatened to quit representing me as my attorney.
Well, he has that right. He could say, look, I think I've gotten all I can get. I wouldn't hang my hat on the fact that something appeared in the newspaper. Some years ago, I walked into the newsroom of my company. This is when we were owned by a different owner, okay? And we had a big newsroom, one of those things that looks like it was out of a movie with all the clocks on the wall and the, Moscow, Tokyo, you've seen those things, right? And I walked in and things got very quiet, which is very unusual in that newsroom. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Well, what happened was there was an article in there's a column in one of the newspapers, and it gave my so-called salary, which exceeded the budget of the whole news operation for a major network. Well, a lot of people there were ticked off at me. How can this sucker that doesn't talk? Well, let me tell you something. If I made that much money, I wouldn't even talk to me. But it was right there in a major New York newspaper. This is how much money, informed sources say, this is how much money I was getting paid. Well, a year. I mean, it was many millions a year. That was ridiculous. There was no way I was getting that kind of dough, not then. No way. But the point is, it was in the newspaper, so it must be true, is what I'm trying to tell you. I wouldn't just hang my whole thesis on the fact there was a newspaper article.
But doesn't the newspaper with this kind of stories, $1.6 million...
Doesn't mean a thing.
Doesn't mean a thing?
Meaningless. Like some reporter was told something that got printed. It happens all the time. Just as it happens in our business. I hear things on the radio, which I know is garbage.
All right. My follow-up question along the same line would be that can I open up the case again and question everything since my attorney, I believe, did not represent me correctly?
That would be, you wouldn't be opening up your case. You'd be taking an action against your attorney, but I think you're a little late.
Too late?
I think so. I think if I were you, I'd put this whole thing behind me and get on with my life.
Why? Okay, is there a statute of limitation against this kind of, I mean, I hate to, since I don't have any other word for it, but I hate to say that it was a fraud that my attorney created against me.
But you're hanging the whole thing on a newspaper article that appeared 2 years ago.
Well, I also think that he did not represent me well, you know.
Well, in that case, which you might want to, but you should do, I don't know what the statutory provisions are, consult with still another attorney and tell them what you believe, what you think, and see if they think there's some substance there. And don't ever go into the idea that, well, attorneys will not sue other attorneys. There are attorneys who indeed have practices that specialize in suing their brethren. I do wish you well, Guy. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Muscatine, Iowa. Hello there.
Hiya, this is Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
Well, I'm a lucky guy. I inherited a coin collection from my grandmother, about 20 years ago, I guess. And it's been in a lockbox ever since. And now the time has come when I think it might be a good time for me to liquidate some of this, help my kids out through school and things. And with that in mind, I really don't know how to go about doing it in a way that I can keep from being ripped off, so to speak.
Well, the chances if you deal with a decent broker or dealer being ripped off are relatively remote. Let's start with that. Yeah, but you said you have a collection.
Yes.
Is it a collection or an accumulation? There's a world of difference.
Well,
a collection is categorized and displayed and whatever. An accumulation is a whole bunch of stuff in a big shoebox.
Well, it was categorized and all. I mean, there's like complete sets, books of coins, walking Liberty half dollars, silver dollars, Mercury dimes, nice stuff.
That's relatively new stuff. Any older stuff?
Probably the oldest things are some, like, I think they're called type sets of different denominations.
What vintage, though? In what era? Out of what era?
Well, that would have been like the mid-1800s, I guess.
Well, there are any number of good coin houses. You're calling from where?
Muscatine, Iowa.
Well, I don't think you're going to find any place in Muscatine, Iowa. Let's start with that. You'll probably have to go to Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Would an auction be a good way to go on this?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to find out what it's worth, and that's going to cost you for an appraisal, unless you allow the dealer to handle it. And you don't start out with one of those little books you buy for $3. That's not a complete waste of time, but it's the nearest thing to it. But there are any number of good coin houses. In New York City on West 57th Street, one of the best is Stax. And they do business all over the world. We're not talking about, an outfit that just has neighborhood store. They only take finer stuff. They do not take, the guy's Indian head or wheat cent collection. That's just not what they're looking for. They're looking for expensive material. But there are any number of these stores around, and I wouldn't be reluctant to have them appraise it for you.
Now, of course, they're in it to make money.
Well, of course. What else? So, what are you in it for?
That's absolutely right. I wonder what I would be looking at on something like that. Would they want to pay like about half of the?
Oh, if they buy it, half or less.
Yeah.
But that's what. But you, what business are you in?
Law enforcement.
All right. Why do you laugh? I was trying to draw an analogy, but it's pretty hard to do there.
Yeah, that's hard to draw.
But if you own a store, you don't expect to pay retail for the stuff and then try to sell it. You pay wholesale.
Yeah.
In every enterprise, that's the case, and they're entitled to make a profit. There are also frequently they will take it on consignment, where you get a much bigger percentage.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't happen instantly. And by the way, we could argue about your sense of timing in terms of leaving it there for 20 years. There was a time in the 80s when coins went absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I watched that come and go.
And then, well, that's right. It came and it went.
Yeah.
Which is another program. But then what they say about, in your part of the world, bulls make money, bears make money. What happens to pigs in Iowa?
Hey, if it's not an emergency getting rid of this stuff, do you think I should hang on to it for a while?
Well, I don't think you're going to go too far wrong with American coinage if it's good stuff. But you see, if I were going to hang on to this for any length of time, I'd rather have 2 good pieces than 100 mediocre pieces.
I understand that, yeah.
And I would be inclined to turn the 100 mediocre into money or into a trade for 2 good pieces.
Yeah, I understand that. The key coins are the key coins.
But when you walk in with that mask and a gun that you're wearing there, I don't think they'll give you too bad a time. But I think you'll probably have to take a trip to the big city.
Okay.
I do wish you well, guy.
Thank you, sir.
It's been good talking to you. Alrighty, we go from Muscatine, Iowa to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hello there.
Hey, how you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing real well,
Thanks for taking my call.
You're most welcome.
Listen, I got a question about a house I sold back in 1989 in Louisiana. We, my wife and I had purchased the house with a VA loan, and when we sold it...
You sold it on assumption?
Yes. And
how did I figure that out?
And we moved to Texas, and in 1990 we received a letter from the VA, and they said it was kind of like a warning letter. They felt like
this guy is behind on his payments.
Yeah, and that he might default on it.
Which he probably did.
Yes, he did. There was a judgment against the house in 1991, but we were never contacted. We're now living in Tennessee. And a couple of weeks ago, a collection agency called. I wasn't home, but they talked to my wife, and they were just asking questions about it. I guess the house sold for $30,000, but there's a judgment.
How much was the mortgage?
$50,000. And it sold for $30,000.
Yeah. Well, the oil debacle in the early '90s in Louisiana caused
the
a lot of real estate to go crazy.
Took a big hit.
Yeah.
Now. I contacted our real estate agent that sold the house for us, and she got to the courthouse and sent us the judgment papers, but we can't tell from the papers whether it's a general judgment or a specific judgment. I guess there's 2 types of judgments.
I am not familiar with the 2 terms.
Oh, okay.
But I think that if you're asking me, are you on the hook? Very possibly.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the VA just doesn't bother going after people. And I can't tell you why they go after one person and not another. I don't think anyone, well, maybe there's someone out there who could tell you that. I don't know the answer to that.
How about the assets that we have currently?
They're attackable.
They are?
Yes, sir. You were on the bond. When you sell something on an assumption, you are still on the bond.
Huh.
That means didn't you know that?
Yeah, I did, but...
You were desperate.
Yeah.
And you sold it to somebody who was weak.
Yeah.
Well, I understand the desperation, but that is not a good move.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now.
You prove that now.
All right.
It's easy to have 20/20 hindsight, but the fact is, when you'll hear people say, well, I got a car, I'm upside down, if you take the payments over, you can have the car. Well, ask yourself, who would buy a car for more than it's worth?
All right.
Only somebody who was desperate, who was likely to have to make the payments to begin with. How much was the house worth when you sold it?
We sold it for $53,000.
Well, I didn't ask you what you sold it for. I asked you what it was worth. There's a difference. In other words, he took it over.
Right.
Because he was not strong. Right? If you sold the house independently...
we went to a real estate agent.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
If you sold it without an assumption...
Oh, okay.
At that time, honestly, how much would it have sold for?
I would like to believe right around 50, because we were hoping to at least break even.
Well, I know what you're hoping for. Hoping isn't what we're talking about. You bought it in when?
In 84.
And you sold it in 85, you said?
89.
All right. You know that property went to hell in that period of time. Yes or no?
Shortly thereafter.
It was already done. 89 was already heading downhill.
Okay.
Now, being honest with yourself, I'm just trying to... The chances of selling it for 50 were pretty remote, weren't they?
Well, to be honest with you, I was hoping to sell it for that, and the problem we were having was a time factor. I had already accepted the job in Texas, and so it was a time factor.
Why is that a time factor? I don't understand.
Well,
you leave your wife there in the house. What's the big deal?
Well, it's kind of hard maintaining two homes at the same time.
Well, no, you don't get two homes. You live in a furnished room up in Texas.
Well, yeah, but that's still...
Well, you see, that would have been a lot cheaper is what I'm trying to get to.
Right.
Maybe we're talking about this for maybe somebody else will benefit along the way. In other words, you did something which it turned out to be foolish, and as I mentioned, 20/20 hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Right.
But the fact is, when you sell a house on an assumption, you ought to be certain that the guy has got... He didn't put any money down, did he?
No.
Yeah, well, see, he has nothing to lose.
Yeah, I realize now it was a stupid move, and the guy that bought it wasn't the best person at all to be selling it to.
Exactly.
But my question really right now is the assets that we would have...
Whatever you have now is vulnerable, if that's what you're asking me.
Is there anything we can do with it to make it not so vulnerable?
Not legally.
Not legally, no.
Not legally. You can't divest yourself of assets in anticipation of a lawsuit. That's improper. It's illegal.
Is there any way I can find out exactly what's going to be coming down the road?
Well, that I can't tell you either. I wouldn't go stir things up if it were me, because the VA does not uniformly go after everyone for deficiencies. I'd wait to see what happens.
Do you think? Do you recommend contacting a lawyer?
Not yet. Nothing to contact them about it. Not yet.
Okay.
Let's see. If you're served, that's a different program. Gotta let you go, guy.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bruce.
Okay, kid. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Santa Maria, what's on your mind? We have to accelerate.
Okay. Bruce, we're trying to sell our house, or we're about to put it on the market. It's got an 18-year-old wood shake roof, and we're aware that a lot of lenders need a roof inspection. And
most wood.
Excuse me?
Most would, yes.
Okay, well, we don't know if it could pass a 5-year. In other words, we don't...
Well, why don't you go have it inspected and find out?
Well, in other words, we have.
Yeah.
And we're not sure what we should do about... Should we get a new roof put on?
I wouldn't do anything. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
I mean, first, you have had it inspected by a qualified roofer?
Yes.
What do they say?
They say they could make it leak-proof for a year, but they don't think that they could guarantee it for a life of 5 years.
They're saying it's marginal.
Yes.
And you're saying that the lenders in your area would require a 5-year life to give a mortgage.
Well, we've heard that some do.
Well, you've heard that.
Yeah.
Well, that's not. I wouldn't do anything until I was required to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. You see, the new guy comes along. He may not want wood shakes. He may want asphaltic shingles, or he may want who knows. If it has to be replaced, then that's negotiated in the sale.
Okay, we could negotiate that. We wouldn't have to replace it.
You may or may not, but right now I wouldn't do anything until it was required of me.
Okay.
I do wish you well.
Thanks. Bye.
Hey, kids, it's been a good evening, and I appreciate all of your kind comments and your participation. Now, I know it's not easy, but give it your best shot. Try and do what's right. I am Bruce Williams. Keep in touch. People work at the same place.
I guess there's 12 of us.
Well, you guys could form your own group, which might be the way to go, if the other people want insurance as well.
Yeah.
It's called a baby group.
So that's generally a less expensive way to go?
It can be, yes. It can be. But you really ought to get hustling, get yourself covered, because if something were to happen now, there could be goodbye to your house and everything else.
Right.
That's not what you want to have happen.
No.
I do wish you well, kid.
Hey, I had a question that I'm sort of curious. They asked me not to ask.
Go for it.
But I was sort of wondering, it was about another caller. They said not to ask it, though.
Well, I'll let you off the hook. It's New Year's Eve coming up.
Thanks. A fellow had inherited a house, and you suggested he sell it and invest that into a larger property.
Well, what he said was he was going to have $120,000.
Right.
And the building would be paid for. He was thinking about renting it out. I said, if you want to go in the real estate business, you ought to leverage it.
Right.
Put the 20% down, then you can control $600,000 instead of controlling $120,000.
Right. Is it not feasible for him to borrow money on the house to buy the $600,000
and still rent out his house and have the other property?
He could do that and make it part of the package. You're right. That could be done.
Yeah, so that the big investment, hopefully he could work it out to where he could break even,
No,
and then the
well,
house be extra income.
No, that will
I mean, that's the least you would want is to break even.
Well, yeah, but the what you're trying to do, you see, is build equity. Not in the case of an investor that does not need the income to live on. You're trying to expand your equity, not put money in your pocket.
Oh, okay.
And he could make that. But your observation is correct. He could make that part of the deal.
All right.
I do wish you well, guy.
Thanks for breaking the rules. God bless you.
It's been a pleasure. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. The companies are discouraging that. And that's why a lot of companies have put out generic stock certificates just so they don't look like anything. I was I still am, the personal representative of a rather substantial estate. And the lady, the decedent, my friend, kept every certificate. She kept nothing in the street name, which is a mistake, by the way. But in any event, I had to go through handling all these hundreds and hundreds of stock certificates, and I was amazed that some of them are very, very beautiful, no question about that. And some would say 1 share, some would say 2,000 shares. You see, the certificate has to be filled in to how many shares it's worth. And I inquired, that's how I got into this with one of the brokers, and I said, some of this stuff is really worth framing. He said, that's why they don't do it, because people were framing them. And then your granddaughter would be the holder of record and entitled to all the stuff that the major stockholder would get, none of which she'd care about.
Right.
But she'd still get it, because that's the law. Better to go down to the Disney store and buy them something pretty, or Warner Brothers, wherever you want to go. Have it framed and get hung. You know what would be an appropriate gift for them?
What's that?
A cell.
What?
A cell.
Spelled C-E-L-L?
C-E-L, single L. It's a one frame of a cartoon.
Oh, okay.
Now, you're not going to get one for $50, I'll tell you that.
Uh-huh.
You're talking several $100s.
Wow.
For a cell. If it's a genuine cell, the likelihood is that'll go up a lot.
Considered an investment too, then?
Oh, it'll go up a lot better than the stock will.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. No.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
How old are you? Well, you have grandchildren. What the hell? You're good.
55.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to make you sick to your stomach. When you were about 26, something like that. Disneyland opened, right?
Right.
It opened 37, 38 years ago now, something in that order. The first 4 or 5 years that Disneyland was open, you could buy original cells at the little stands they had there for $1. Some of those cells are worth $5,000 to $10,000 a piece today.
Wow.
And they were selling. No, that kind of. I don't think you can see that kind of interest.
For that too, though.
Oh, sure. in New York City, on the corner of, and this is not a plug. I never bought anything there. 7th Avenue and 51st Street. There is a store, the high rent district, that does nothing but sell cartoon originals. And you can walk in there and see one there, $50,000, $35,000, big money. Big money. But isn't it something else that in those years, in the 50s that would be, I guess, that they just sold them for $1? As a matter of fact, the folks at Disney, show you how smart they were cleaning them off to use them again, to save the celluloid. A couple of pennies worth of celluloid. From Snow White, from Pinocchio and whatever, actually wiping them. That's why the ones that are left are so much more valuable. But they actually sold them for $1. $1 single dollar at Disneyland. And I'm sure people bought them, that have them hanging around the house that are worth thousands of dollars today. What do they say? Today's trash is tomorrow's treasure?
Amen.
But if you want to buy your kids something or your grandchildren, and you can afford it, a cell. Further, it's great art, and on top of that, over the years, there's a very distinct pot. Now, there's nothing sure now. Underscore. I'm not telling you go out and buy a cell and get rich. Could go down in value, but the chances are, the likelihood is, over the years, if it's a decent one to begin with, it's going to go up in value. But I don't want to ever get caught in this bag. saying, hey, Bruce said they're always going to go up guaranteed. The only thing that's guaranteed is 2 weeks from now you'll be 2 weeks older. I do wish you well. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Delray, Florida, welcome to my world.
Thank you, Bruce. Hi.
Hi there.
Oh, boy. You know that new movie, Dumb and Dumber?
I missed that one. I'm probably the star, though, when it's outtakes.
I think they wrote it about me for what I just did.
What happened, kid?
Okay. I take care of a sick aunt, and we have both our names on a bank account. So she has a son who's a real screw-up, his credit. She listens to a guy on the radio. He's on every night down here in South Florida selling a credit repair course. So, I said, I don't believe it. Months go by, she's listening. I listen to it with her sometimes. Sure enough, I place the order.
Who placed the order?
I placed the order.
For her?
Her son's first initial is the same as hers. So, I figured we'll get the course with just the first initial and the last name. It's as if it's in his name. Because I forget the details of why we did it that way. Just suffice it to say, we have to take care of him. And I'm taking care of her. Okay.
Okay. This guy has got a bum credit rep. Is that correct?
Right.
And you want to try to cure that?
Okay.
Is that a fair statement?
He has bad credit reports.
And you're trying to cure that?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So I placed the order and I explained the situation that.
How much money?
Well, they give a rebate. The course it was $189.70, and when you send them a copy of your credit report and whatever, a little correspondence with the credit companies, with TRW and TransUnion, they send you a $60 rebate. So it should be $129.70 after when all is said and done. Okay. So you give them your checking account number, and they create a bank draft. They don't take checks. They don't take credit cards. Okay, I placed the order. I explained the situation, that it was for someone else, but that the first initial and the last name were the same. They said, fine, no problem. Okay, they're supposed to send the course immediately. 2 weeks later, I call up. I speak to the guy himself.
What guy?
I'm not supposed to say his name.
Well, the principal of the company?
Correct, the man on the radio.
Well, that doesn't necessarily make him a principal of the company, but they could be.
I believe it's his case. It's his company.
Okay.
Okay.
Does he do a show of some kind, or is this strictly a commercial?
A show.
Okay. Local show.
Yeah, I think you know who it is.
I'm not sure I do.
Okay.
But I want you to tell Danny off the air. Danny, just pot everything down, and I want to hear who this is, and you said South Florida. Maybe I know, maybe I don't know, but at least I'll be having a clue who the guy is. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I called the guy up after 2 weeks, and he was very upset. He assured me the course had not been sent. They had received the order. They had received payment. He was worried that his system was broken down somehow and that orders were being placed and they weren't being filled. I said, fine, no problem. Send me another course. He said, well, I can't do that because of my computer system. Well, this is where dumb got dumber.
Because of my computer system?
I was under a lot of strain. I can come up with a lot of excuses for what I did.
Go ahead.
The truth is, I got much dumber than I had been.
Go ahead.
Authorized a second draft. He assured me absolutely just to make a photocopy of both drafts, send them to him, and he'll reimburse me right away for the first one. And then after I do whatever, and send him the right correspondence, I'll get the rebate check.
Go ahead.
Well, all I know, every time I call up his 800 number, he's out of the country. Every night he's in South Florida doing a live radio show, but every day he's out of the country. So this went on. I must have called that place a couple of hundred times, left messages. I tried to get their fax number, which I had anyway, but just to see if they'd give me any information or if they were, how much they were ducking me. Wouldn't even give me the fax number over the phone. My friend would call up immediately after, and they'd give him the fax number.
Why would they give it to him and not to you?
Because I'm trying to send them I had the fax number anyway.
No, but under what pretext did he...
Oh, that he was interested in placing an order.
I see, okay.
And to get information about the course.
Mm-hmm.
So I see right away I'm going to end up having to take this guy to court. So this, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it. So I sent him a copy of the bank drafts. Months went by, and I was literally almost that day ready to go to small claims court.
Right.
And I get a phone call Okay, he'll send a check. Well, when and for how much? I don't know. And the woman with whom I spoke, I'd spoken with her numerous times, and I said, I've been asking you to get me that information all along. Like, send me the check, and please call me and tell me, when he's sending it and for how much. Whatever. I think, other than a lot of other details, that sums up the situation.
Well, did you get a check yet?
Are you kidding?
Bruce,
I'm expecting it any day now.
Think of all the cocktail conversation you got out of this for... The best stories are the stories where you're the fool. And this one, man, you got a great story.
I would like to go over to that radio station and meet this guy in person.
Why don't you do that?
Well, because I better not.
Well, I mean, you're an adult. You can keep your temper.
Oh no, I don't know about this one. This is just so.
All right, let's talk about this. Is he on just one station, local station? Or is that a network?
He was on one station, like around here, Delray, Boca. Now he's in Miami.
But he's still only on one radio station.
That I know of, yeah. But he says on his show he's going to go national.
Well, now everybody in this business is going national.
Right.
Of course. Why don't you call the general manager and the sales manager of the station where he's talking?
Right.
Because the last thing that a radio, and with a good reason,
right,
that a radio station wants to hear is that one of their personalities or their advertisers are fleecing the public.
Right.
I mean, I do commercials. I make no apology for it. We're in a money-making business.
Sure.
And what am I here for? I mean, I'm here because I'm getting very well paid for it, and I have other interests in this business, as well as other radio. But we also have responsibility, in my opinion. And I think most of the management people in this enterprise share that point of view. Now, if he is fleecing the public the way you described, I'd call both the station where you heard the commercial, and is he still flacking this stuff on the news station?
Yeah, every night.
Then I'd get on the phone. It's too late now, but certainly the first of the year. I'd get on the phone.
He's on the radio right now, actually.
Well, without regard to that, I would talk to the salesman in the daytime. You can't do this at night.
Right.
I'd talk to the general manager of the station, and you might suggest to him that you really don't want to go to the Federal Communications Commission.
Well, actually, Bruce, I really do.
Then do so.
Okay, right. I was going to. I mean, I have my friend's typing up the letter for me. He's a stenographer. It's a rather succinct version of everything that transpired, and I was planning to send it to the FCC, the FTC, the Attorney General.
Well, the Attorney General and the FCC would be the two places to go. The FCC is, understandably, a lot of things they do I don't agree with, but they should be concerned about this.
Well, I think.
Hold on now, only got a couple seconds. And the Attorney General of the state of Florida, because Florida seems to be a hotbed of this kind of stuff, is equally concerned. I wish we had more time. I'd appreciate an update when it happens. I'm Bruce Williams for Talknet.
Originally put the rental car on a credit card that did not have collision waiver damage insurance. Okay. Now, after the accident, I went back to the rental car agency and changed my credit card to one that did have collision damage.
That's pretty sneaky and probably illegal.
Well, no, actually it is not. I later come to find out.
You mean the company? You're the.
Well, let me give you a.
Go ahead. The credit card company didn't object to this, knowing.
Hold on 1 second. Let me give you a hypothetical situation here. If you were to go into a rental car agency and wanted to rent a car for cash, you wouldn't be able to do that.
That's true.
You'd have to actually put a credit card down.
Yeah, you're not supposed. Well, you're going to give me this hypothetical, then you walk in and get cash and tear up the slip. That's wrong. You're cheating the credit card company.
Well, anyway,
no, there's no. No, wait a minute. Hold it. What do you do for a living?
I do sales.
All right. If I said you work on commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If I just said arbitrarily every fourth commission you don't get it, is that okay? Arbitrarily, you don't get the commission. Is that okay?
Well, obviously.
No, that's a yes or a no. Don't give me obviously. Is that a yes or a no?
It is a no.
That's wrong. Well, you're doing exactly the same thing to the credit card company. You are using their card and their ability to get credit, and then they don't get paid for it because they get a commission on the sale, which you just robbed them of.
Right, but my
no, there's no right. That's stealing. And changing cards after the fact is also stealing.
Okay. Well, let me come to the bottom line here.
Okay, the bottom line. You're still a thief, but go ahead.
Right. The bottom line is that it didn't really make any difference whether I had put that card on or the rental on a car that did or did not have insurance, because in terms of the state that I live in, which is New York, the liability insurance that I have must take precedence over any other.
The insurance becomes secondary.
Right, exactly.
Instead
so my
of primary.
liability insurance becomes primary.
Your liability or your collision?
No, I do not have collision insurance.
And your liability covers. That's an and you're telling me that New York has specific law on that point?
Precisely.
Okay, because many states do not. That's an arguable point.
Okay.
It is not universal. I can guarantee you that.
Okay.
And secondly, what you did still was stealing.
Okay, well, I will know better
people
next time.
People that walk into a hotel and do the same thing, they pay cash. That's stealing. Because what is the credit card for? It is to extend credit. And the credit card company makes their money extending credit. So you use that to obtain the credit, but then you deny them the commission.
I do.
So it would just be like lifting your commission. Every fourth commission, well, what the hell, we'll keep it, and we'll put it in the fund for unwet pussycats.
I've never seen it from that perspective, but it does make sense. Okay.
Okay, guy. So it worked out anyway. Your liability insurance took over, huh?
Yeah, it sure did. It was quite a shock, though, to receive a bill for about $12,000 within about a week after the accident, though.
Yes, I can imagine it would be a little bit of a jolt.
Yep. So, well, I just wanted to update you on.
I appreciate the call. I don't mean to pick on you, but I think what I said is absolutely true.
Okay.
And a lot of people do what you're talking about. They do it. I've had them try to do it in our stores.
I see.
And from our point of view as a storekeeper, we're better off. We don't have to pay the commission.
Right. Now,
but that still makes it wrong.
Now, is there anything? Now, you keep on saying that it is wrong, but is there anything legally wrong about that? I know it may be morally wrong.
That's a good question. It would certainly be illegal to do what you did, to try to change the cards after the fact to collect an insurance. Oh, absolutely. Because what you're trying to do is cover an insurance loss that the company was not on. I don't think there's any question about that would be fraud.
That is interesting, because my perspective from that is, if I went into the rental agency trying to just rent it with cash, I wouldn't be able to.
That's true.
So therefore, putting down a temporary retainer on the credit card.
No, that's temporary. My foot. The credit card company is supposed to make money from that transaction, and that's bad enough. But then changing the card, so you're putting a company on the hook, the insurance company that insures that credit card, for a loss that they were not on when the loss took place, is fraud. I don't care how you slice it. I'd argue that with anybody.
So does that actually mean that rental agencies should deny the ability of people to change credit cards at the point of return?
I would think so, yes. Oh, the point, and they're going to look at it from their perspective. Look, we don't want the hassle. We want to get paid. Here's a loss here. But yeah, I think they would be a party to the fraud. But then they'd still come after the individual. But they wouldn't give up anything except the deepest pocket. The individual may not have the $12,000, the insurance company does, but absolutely the company should not, in the event of a loss.
Right.
And even I don't think they should be allowed to do it. Period. There was a time when the credit card companies would jerk their license to use their cards when they did that.
I see. Okay, well, thank you very much. Anyway,
I do wish you well. Have a happy New Year, kid.
You too. Bye-bye.
I'm Bruce Williams. Stick around. Agree or disagree? This is Talknet. Alrighty, Danny, I am not I heard one town. Where's the other town, Danny? Jeanette, Pennsylvania. Hello there.
Hello, Bruce. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, and same to you.
All right. What I got for you is I have an old Disney film. It's, Walt Disney Productions on the carton and everything, and it's Gold Rush Mickey. And I heard you talking last Friday.
Gold Rush Mickey, that goes back into the late 20s, early 30s?
I am not really sure of it.
Is it original?
I don't know whether it's a reprint or an original.
If it's a reprint, I don't think it has any value at all. If it's an original, maybe. You heard me talking about what?
Disney, a place in New York that handles Disney stuff.
Oh yeah, but we're talking about cell. We were talking about cells.
Uh-huh.
That means the original hand-done painting for each individual frame on your film.
Okay, now I see what you mean.
There was a cell done for those, and those have considerable. Well, it's not one place. I just mentioned there was a place in New York City, but there are memorabilia, Disney and other stores all over the country, not run by Disney or Warner Brothers or anybody else. I guess they sell the stuff too. What I was talking about was the cells that they sold at Disneyland when Disneyland first opened. And what was it? Say this is 95. I think about 65. About 57 they opened, something like that? 56?
Yeah, it was in the 50s somewhere. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was the 35th anniversary, which I went to, was about 4 or 5 years ago. So it's got to be 40 years ago. 55. Who was one of the presenters? Who was one of the guys that was they had four media people. Who was one of them? Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
He was one of the guys that was one of the hosts of the thing. In any event, they were, after that time, at Disneyland, in the 60s, when I took my kids there, they were selling these cells for $1 a piece. And some of them they just wiped off to use the celluloid again, which boggles the mind. Those same cells, some of them are worth $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a pop today.
Mm-hmm.
That's the original artwork.
Okay, yeah. We talked about this film, I don't know how many different times and everything, and I was just wondering if you might know anything about it.
Well, you can write to Disney and they'll tell you. If it's an original film, what size is the film?
It's 8mm.
No, it's not original. Definitely not original.
Okay, yeah, because my dad bought it for us kids.
Yeah, but that was just bought in the store to play with. And it may have some value to Disney collectors.
Well,
but it clearly isn't original. But there are Disney. There are, and that is one of the more collectible items. Disney, and I'm one of them. I collect. I have a lot of Disney stuff, Disney watches, and I got a whole room, literally a room full of Disney collectibles.
Really into it.
Well, over the years, I've been there a good deal, and I've gotten to know a lot of people there, and they've been generous and give me souvenirs and whatever. One of the things that I wish I'd bought more of them. At Euro Disney, when they first opened, I was there for the opening, and I think they made 1,000 watches. That was it. And I just got one, but I kept the box, the receipt, and everything else. They went from $85 to something like $1,000 in one day.
That's a big jump.
That's a nice jump. But the problem, what the problem with a lot of that is?
What's that?
I'm never going, unless I'm destitute, I would never sell any of this stuff. I've got marionettes. I've got this is an oxymoron, a life-size Pinocchio, going back a long ways. When they made the film. Now, you think I'd part with that sucker?
Oh, probably not.
No. So whatever value it is not material, you see, because it's not something that I would convert to money any more than the watches and the rest of the stuff that I have. But it shouldn't be hard to find out if it might have a little value. But it's certainly 8mm. That would probably only go back into the probably 60s someplace. How old are you?
I'm 48.
Yeah, would that make it about right, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, my sister was older. I don't remember exactly when.
Yeah, the 50s, 60s, something like that. It was probably reproduced. Hey, hang on to it and enjoy it.
I already copied it onto videos.
Yeah, but hey, there's
to be able to view it.
Not true. What do you think of that?
What's that?
It's not true that you copied it so you can get rid of the old.
No, I did.
Do you know why? No, seriously, they just did a thing on this on, I think it was on the American Movie Channel. I don't want to give them credit for something they didn't do, or Discovery, or one of those guys. Do you know why that is?
No, I don't.
Because they figure the best shot you got with a video is a 15-year life, and then that goes away. So what they were talking about. And I can appreciate this because my former wife did this for our children, where we had a lot of 8mm stuff, and she had that put on video.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, but they say don't destroy the original films. Package them in the appropriate, whatever they require in terms of humidity or lack of same and whatever. Because the videos will only last about 15 years. And the best, that Sony says 15 years, and they make the stuff. And then you lose it again. But if you have the film, you could have it done again and again and again. The film will last, I guess, indefinitely if it's kept under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
I was in a salt mine, I believe, 600 and some odd feet below the surface of the earth. And I was leaning up against a box. It's a constant, I think it was 61 degrees down there. I think that's the number, whatever it was. And I was leaning up against this big old case. Has the original print of Gone with the Wind in it. That's where, because the humidity and everything is so perfect down there that things will last, I guess, indefinitely. They have metal cases sitting on salt, but there's no corrosion because there's absolutely no humidity. Which in itself, I think, is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that seems odd.
Well, there's 600 feet.
You think of salt and corrosion.
Yeah, but salt doesn't corrode, though, without moisture. And in Hutchinson, Kansas, down in their salt mine, no corrosion. Hey, good talking to you, guy. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. As I live and breathe Longview, Texas, home of Keys Radio.
Good morning, good evening, Mr.
Let me check my watch here. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, doing good. How's your new year starting out?
Everything. Well, I'll tell you. It's been confusing. How's that?
Oh.
Confusing. But what the heck?
Yeah.
What's on your mind, guy?
Well, I'm a senior in college, and I have never needed to mess with credit or anything. And,
mess with credit. That's a great way to put it.
Well, I'm going to have some loans that I have to take care of when I come out, and...
You student loans?
Yeah, and just with credit cards and everything else, I was wondering if you could tell me any books or any good reference materials when questions come up, or I don't know if word, but...
Well, what strategies are required here? Let's talk about you a little bit. Let's not make this into rocket science when it's probably fourth grade stuff.
Oh, okay.
What do you have? What is your situation? You said you're a senior in college. You're almost a real person.
Yeah.
Not quite, but almost.
And, well, I don't have a credit card or anything.
Hold on now. Let's talk about debts let's take it one step at a time, shall we?
Okay.
You have some student loans, I assume.
Right.
How much?
I don't know off the top of my head, but my guess would be somewhere in about the neighborhood of $15,000, $20,000 when I get out.
That much for undergrad?
Well, I'm going to a private school, Eternal University, and...
I know the place well.
A little bit cheaper than UT, Texas, down in Tyler.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you owe $20,000. That's all right. What's your degree going to be in?
A business major with a background in aviation maintenance.
Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?
That is something I'm still not sure yet.
There's the 37-cent question, huh?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Now, aside from the student loans, what do you owe?
Nothing.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. First of all, are you working at all now?
Yeah. I've been working pretty much most of my way through school.
Okay. Do you have any outstanding obligations now? Yeah, because the question's an important question, and you'll see why in a moment.
Okay. No, I've been able to stay current with my bills, and...
Okay, that's cool. If you can, well, you can. What you ought to consider doing is applying for a credit card now.
Right.
Do you know why?
Well, I know for one thing, I've seen the brochures for student credit cards where just being a college student is enough to get your foot in the door.
That's not only your foot, you hold your leg and body. They will loan money to students that a year from now, when you're making $30,000 a year, they won't.
Right.
Now I don't understand the logic there. That's not true. I think I understand where they're going with that. I'm not certain I applaud it. But the fact is that as a senior in college, they have programs to kind of suck you in. They want to get you on their team.
Right.
Take advantage of that. However, what is your first name?
I'm Greg.
Greg, do you have discipline?
That's one reason why I haven't been real anxious to...
Right. Remember, here's what we're going to... You're single, aren't you, Greg?
Yes.
You have some parents floating around somewhere?
Yes, I do.
All right. What you might want to do is apply for the credit card. When you get it, give it to your mom and dad to hold for you for 6 months.
Oh.
So you don't get tempted.
Right.
But the fact is you will have it when the time comes when you need it.
Right.
And there's no disgrace, by the way. No disgrace at all in having to do that. Matter of fact, it does show, in my opinion, a certain amount of maturity.
Okay.
Of letting, you say, look, I got a problem. I might get tempted. I can understand why you might get tempted. On the other hand, you also are mature enough to know if I get tempted, I'm going to be in deep,
Exactly.
All right. But it is a good tool to get now. Look, the system, whether we like it or not, the system says, we'll give you one now, we won't give you one later.
Right.
So get it now. But then give it to Mama or Papa to put in the safe deposit box someplace.
Okay. That makes sense. Is there any good reference material?
Greg, again, this is not rocket science. What reference material are you looking for? What do you want to know? What else is there?
I don't know. I guess that's about it.
A credit card, credit itself, is a tool, just like the slide rule, which you probably don't use anymore, just like the calculator, which you do.
Right.
Just like a screwdriver when you're working on a car. Screwdriver's a useful tool, isn't it?
Exactly.
But you can kill people with screwdrivers, can't you?
True.
Same thing is true with credit cards or any kind of credit. It is a useful tool, but it also can burn you pretty badly.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Depending upon, you don't blame the screwdriver.
Of course not.
And you don't blame the credit card. You blame the person with it.
Right.
Aside from that, I mean, you're going to go out, you're going to be a real person, start paying your bills.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody's written 300 pages on what I've just told you, and I don't think they're going to tell you any more than I just told you.
Okay. That sums it up, I guess. It's just something I've never had really any experience with, and
you point up a glaring deficiency in our system. You paid, how much did it cost you to go to college? Everything in?
Well, $4,500 a semester for 4 years.
All right, that's $36,000.
Yeah. And then I don't live on campus, but living expenses while I'm going to school and books.
Probably $50,000 or more, right?
Yeah, that could really.
And yet here they are. They sent you through all kinds of courses, some of which are very valuable, I'm sure, and some of them have about as much value as the sex life of an amoeba, as far as you're concerned.
Exactly.
And yet they didn't teach you about fundamental. And you said you were a business major someplace in there.
Right.
But they never worked up a course for fundamental personal money management, did they?
No.
How to budget, how to handle a credit card, why you don't think in terms of how much a month, and so forth. None of these things.
No.
What an incredible deficiency in our system.
I can agree with you on that.
Incredible deficiency. We're not going to correct that, but I think you can do fine.
Okay. Well,
Greg, I wish you well. Take good care, kid. I'm Bruce Williams. Stick around for more. This is Talknet. Mobile, Alabama, welcome to my world.
Hello, and how are you?
I am just fine. Happy New Year, dear.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you. I've listened to you on and off the last 2 or 3 years. I was in a position where I was one of these ladies who never kept a checkbook when my husband became ill, and needless to say, there were many, many mistakes made.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being I tried to pay off a couple of, more than 3 bills that I had financed. One, a major car company, a finance company, and a furniture company.
When you say you tried to pay them off,
yes.
Why is that complicated? Maybe I'm missing something.
Because when I called them and asked them how much I actually owed them, I was paying off about a year earlier.
Right.
They quoted me the price of the contract. I was always under the impression.
Hold the phone. What do you mean with the price of the contract? Maybe I'm missing something here.
Okay. For the major car company, the balance of the contract.
You mean without any credit for interest?
That's it. Three companies did that and gave me the impression that I would have to pay off the balance. And I was
you do have to pay off a balance, but not the non-discounted balance. However, I think what's throwing you off is your husband got himself into loans which were calculated under the rule of 9s or 78s. Now, without going through all the technical stuff, what that means is that not only do you borrow money, but you also borrow all the interest up front. So suppose you borrow $10, and for the sake of this discussion, that the interest over the course of the contract, however it was computed, is $5. Then you borrow not $10, but you borrow $15, and you're paying interest on your interest. Well, that's probably what. How old were the loans?
The car loan, 3 years. 3 years.
Was 3 years old?
Was 3 years, yeah.
And how much was the outstanding balance? Let's do another. Hold on. Let's do it another way. I mean, because we're going to ask some confusing questions here. Are you sure that was 3 years? All right. How many payments did you have to go?
I had a full year.
What but it just was 1 year.
Yes, I had a.
How much were the payments a month?
If I remember correctly, something like $163 a month.
And you had a year to go. Well, that'd be about $2,000, a little less.
Yeah.
1950, maybe closer. Okay. How much did they tell you was due in the loan?
That much.
Not a nickel less?
Not a nickel less.
Well, something wrong there.
And this happened 3 times with a car company, a loan company, and a furniture.
You asked for the payoff number. Is that correct? That's the term you got to use. The payoff number.
Okay, there's where I made my mistake.
What did you say?
I just simply wanted to pay the balance off.
Oh no, I think what you asked was that's not the question that you asked. I think you asked. Well, maybe so. Maybe I'm not sure if that's. Maybe if you asked for the balance, you should have got the payoff balance.
That's what I was thinking.
But call them back and ask them for the payoff balance, and they'll have to. You have to give them a very specific date because it changes every day. But it should not be that number. It should be less. Not a whole lot less, because you've been paying a lot. Now you're paying principal, where before you were paying a lot of interest up front.
Okay.
But it still should be less than that number.
So that's another misunderstanding of mine.
Well, not of yours necessarily. I'm not blaming you for that.
Yeah, you pay the interest up front?
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. You borrow the interest, and you got to pay interest on the interest.
Oh, boy.
Well, but that's the way that retail financing is done. Not much fun, but that's the way it's done.
Okay. Well, thank you ever so much.
You're very welcome. Take good care, sweetheart. Atlanta, Georgia. Hello there.
Hi there, Bruce. How are you?
I am real well, thank you.
I'm having a miserable start of the new year.
What's the problem?
Well, I talked to you about a year and a half ago. I've been working for a grocery store for over 10 years. Picked up a college degree along the way, worked there part-time, through high school, etc. I called you. I just got a full-time opportunity with the company, but not in the department that I wish to be in.
What department were you in, or wish to?
Okay, at the time, I got full-time in the deli department.
And is that where you were working?
That's where I was working at one time. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to get to, are they transferring you someplace else, or are they just keeping you where you don't want to be?
Well,
or a little of both.
Sorry?
Or a little of both.
Yeah. You might have to tell me to take a deep breath every now and then.
Go ahead.
The assistant manager, meat manager, and I have, in the last year or two, become closer friends. And he finally pulled me out of the deli and put me under the umbrella of the meat department, which put me in seafood, if that helps you out at all. What I wanted to do, sir, is become a meat cutter and envision myself towards the future of working my way into management down the line. Now, recently, that manager got transferred to the busiest store in town.
This is your friend that you become friendly with?
Correct.
All right.
And after he was there about a week or two, and he knew I wanted to become a meat cutter, they were having a lot of problems with help over there, and he invited me to come over and work, and of course I accepted.
This is not a silly question, I don't think. Did he have the authority to do that?
Well, he had to talk to his boss, I'm sure, to get me hired. It wasn't, I'm sure he used his influence to get me there.
Well, but without respect to that, he did have the authority to make this overture. Some way or other, either conferred on him by somebody else. It wasn't something, like the grocery, the kid out in the bagger saying, hey, come on over here and work, where he had no authority to do so.
Right. I think we're understanding each other here.
Okay.
Okay. So I came over there under the guise of being a meat cutting trainee.
Mm-hmm.
I arrived a few days, about a week before Thanksgiving, and the new boss, the manager, told me when I got hired, he said, well, some guys aren't cut out for this. So, we're going to let you in. We're glad you're here.
We're going to find out if this is your niche.
Exactly. And, so I went in and busted my chops, and a couple weeks later, I realized I hadn't talked to this guy much, and was making a little conversation with him, and he kind of restated that again. He says, some guys aren't cut out for it, some are. And he said, so far I haven't noticed any real problems with you. And, that was where we were at a couple weeks ago. And so with the holidays, I felt that as a team player, I needed to do some of those things I already knew how to do that didn't require a lot of skill, thinking that perhaps after New Year's, when it slowed down, that'd be the opportunity for me to get the more intricate training. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
Okay.
You could work with, when it's real busy, you work on those. If you're great with hamburger, dive into the hamburger department.
And that's about the sort of stuff I did, making hamburger.
Sure.
So, anyway, last week on my day off, he called me up, so he wanted to chat with me, and I'm always ready to go at a minute's notice, so I was like, sure, I'll glad to make a time with you. And anyway, they called back later and said, not a good time to talk today after all. But I found out that they were right across the street from where I live, looking at some cars at a car lot. So I said, well, I'll swing by and talk to you. And, I was like, I gave them the authority to say, would you like me to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I put them on the spot, and they just said, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Well, whatever.
So I went over, and he said, well, I hate to do this. You're a super nice guy. We like you. You're an asset to this company. But you're not a meat man. And, and, we're going to go ahead. We got a job for you over in the grocery department. And Bruce, I worked grocery for a few years. It's not
look, I'm going to take a little time out. When I get back, I'd like to know how they came to the conclusion you are what you are or what you're not.
Me too.
Okay?
Great.
Hang on a minute. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. I'm talking to a young fellow in Atlanta, I believe. Atlanta, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's a college graduate, worked in the grocery business for a ton of years, was asked to move over to another store. He wants to be a meat cutter. Did those things that he felt he could do during the rush season, the holiday season, and met with his boss, and the boss said, you're a great guy, you're an asset, but you're going to groceries because you're no meat cutter. Now, how in the world did he come to that conclusion?
I have a theory, Bruce.
Well, did you ask him?
No, because I don't think I did. I think I was my jaw dropped with shock, not expecting to hear that. I expected to hear maybe some things about here's what we have to work on or something like that.
Sure.
But I didn't expect that. Because in fact, when he called me that day and he said, I'd like to talk to you, and I said, well, is there something wrong that we need to address? And he assured me no. I kind of feel like that wasn't an accurate answer on his part.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he has since hired two very qualified meat-cutting guys. And I think that maybe he just feels like, well, I'm extra person on the payroll. We need to send him away because I don't really want to take the time to train him. That's how I really feel it is.
Well, were the other guys more experienced than you?
Yes, sir.
Well, that'll happen. I mean, in the best of companies, that'll happen.
Well, the thing about it is I went over there, he knew I was, not the most experienced person.
Mm-hmm.
How much could he really expect?
That really is not. If you're looking for equity and fairness and all that good stuff, you're old enough to understand that those things are not necessarily found in abundance in business.
Mm-hmm.
The expeditious thing, I would suspect, from their point of view, was they had a holiday coming up, they had a hole, and they're going to plug up the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're saying, well, hey, we got a couple of guys here who we can just shoot right in here and not have to spend any time with.
Mm-hmm.
And we got George over here who's a hell of a guy. On the other hand, we're going to have somebody babysit him for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, why should we do that? Now, I'm not going to tell you that that's a particularly good decision on their part because I don't know that it is. But it's one they have a right to make, particularly when they're telling you we're not canning you.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to find another place for you within the company. And it would seem to me, maybe now I only got a minute, but you went back to college to get your degree. Is that true?
I never stopped.
You got a degree.
Yes, sir.
Well, it would seem to me then you want to use whatever you're doing in the company to get into management someplace. Is that not true?
Sure.
You don't want to wind up in a refrigerator the rest of your life. Yes? Is that true or not?
What you mean? I'd like to be. What I was pursuing is maybe meat management at the time.
Well,
in the long run.
Does it really matter? As long as you're in the store someplace where you can get, if you can do a good job, get the attention of the next level of management. Does it really matter?
No, but I don't. No, it doesn't.
Pardon?
No, but that's not. I want to go to the right department.
Well, I think, though, but the real management opportunities are not going to be at the department level. It's going to be above that. You're a relatively young guy. I would think a little higher. I'd grab whatever I could get and move up in management. Good luck. I'm Bruce. You sound like an intelligent lady.
Thank you.
And I think you probably consider yourself a good citizen and whatever, right?
Yes.
I'm going to turn things around a little bit. You mentioned you have a son?
Yes, sir.
And you have a daughter.
Yes.
Daughter probably a little older than the son. Is she now still single, married, or what?
She's married and in Washington.
Why? Does she have any children?
No.
All right. Well, let's just take your daughter for him. I'm going to make your. No, I'm not going to do it. But your husband's daughter, your daughter's husband, just impregnated her, and she's going to have triplets in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly a car comes rocketing out of nowhere and kills your husband. Kills him. Mm-hmm. Now, how would you feel if then suddenly it was some 20-year-old kid had the minimum amount of insurance? You'd say, my God, how do they let somebody like that run around? Because he just did it in huge amount of damage to the family, putting aside the emotional damage. Now my daughter's about to have triplets, and there's nobody to support the family. Mm-hmm. And you're going to say to yourself, how socially irresponsible to have this guy running around with a minimum insurance.
I wish my husband could be listening to you now. I have had some of those same feelings, but economically they take such a whack at you.
Why do they do that?
Well,
because kids that age don't have any more accidents than anybody else. Mm-hmm. But the severity of the accidents is considerably greater. Mm-hmm. And it just seems to me that if you're going to drive an automobile, putting aside all of the laws, that you have a social responsibility to carry enough insurance to, as much as possible, ameliorate, undo the damage that you potentially could cause. Even not being negligent. Just, you fall asleep, or a million things could happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly you and I are not above making mistakes.
No, I just made one in March.
What did you do in March?
I connected with the rear end of a vehicle, which connected to the rear end of another vehicle, which connected to the rear end of another vehicle.
Gracious sakes. Now you see what I'm trying to get to. The second part of the equation now is a little closer to the bone. Mm-hmm. It is true that there's no reason to go after your son, but a lot of people would. Mm-hmm. And they get a judgment against him, which means he starts out his life having gone through a bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not something to wish on the kid. You're sending him off to college to prepare him to do all kinds of good things. Who wants a bankruptcy at 19 or 20, which is the only way out if he gets a couple $100,000 judgment against him?
Well, you've certainly reinforced my feelings.
He's carried the appropriate insurance, or there's another alternative. Take the car away from him.
He's going to need it because he's working in one end of town and he'll be going to school in the other end.
This is going to come as a great shock to you, Mama Bear. I mean, there are two things. There are buses, number one.
Oh, they have a wonderful transit.
There are bicycles. Hold it. And there's another problem. Well, wait a minute. You're laughing up a storm here, and I'm being deadly serious.
I'm sorry.
We could take, how much is that? You had 91, what kind of car?
It's a Geostorm.
What's that worth right now?
Probably about $8,000.
Why not sell that, get him a $1,000 car, and use the $7,000 to pay for insurance over the 4 years? He doesn't need a 1991. Brucey baby. He doesn't need a 1991 car as a freshman in college. He needs that like he needs a cancer.
Well, he saved for it.
I don't care. But let him pay for it.
I don't feel I could tell him.
Yes, you can. You say, son, you carry the appropriate amount of insurance. And if you can't afford it, then you can't afford to drive that car. Now, those are the rules. Now, you don't like the rules? I'm not paying for your college. And I'm sure you're kicking in something for college.
Yes.
That's the rules. It's the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Oh, you're laughing, but I'd in a heartbeat.
I guess I'm giddy because it's the first time I've ever called in, and I'm a long-time listener.
Well, I'm delighted you did. But here's the thing. An 18 or 19-year-old kid blew $8,000 or $9,000 or whatever the hell it was on an automobile. And then he's complaining because he can't pay for liability insurance. I don't care about collision. If he loses his car, too bad. That's no big deal. But socially, you teach him an enormously poor lesson in allowing him to run around underinsured. And I wouldn't allow a kid to do that. I do wish you well, love.
Thank you.
Who said parenting ends when they grow up? It just begins. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Austin, Texas. Hello there. Welcome to Talknet.
Hi, Bruce. I have an idea I'm interested in maybe selling, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
I built a piece of furniture that I have in my living room, and people come over, really like it, and they think it's a really creative idea.
What kind of furniture?
This is a coffee table.
Okay.
And I guess along the same theme, I've thought of other things, like an end table and bookshelves that I could do with the same type of
decor or style or whatever.
Right. And I was interested in maybe, writing up some plans, desktop publishing or something, and putting ad in a magazine like Popular Mechanics, Popular Science have a classified ad section in the back.
They certainly do. I advertised in Popular Mechanics when I was a kid.
And anyway,
You know they're having their 90th or 95th anniversary right now?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's either 90th or 95th, and there's a museum in Michigan that's having over a year exhibit of Popular Mechanics, which I think is pretty fascinating.
Anyway, I was wondering, say I wanted to take $1,000 for advertising or something.
Not enough.
Well, would I be better off picking one magazine and
I don't think
going a long term, or
let's stop right now. I don't think you're going to sell any plans in the classified section any place.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I didn't say you can't sell any plans, you'll notice. I said the classified section.
Okay.
Because I don't know that anybody could be articulate enough to describe something unique without a picture in this.
Okay.
Perhaps, see, it's one thing to advertise a finished product, but the plan's another matter. And I think that you have to show the finished product.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, what do I need my plans for? Well, the same thing is true with anything that you sell. You could show plans of a picture of an airplane or the pattern for a quilt or whatever.
Okay.
But you know and I know that to build the thing, you got to have more than that.
Okay.
If you didn't have an advertisement that said, this is a coffee table, or at least one or two representative pictures of what you're talking about, and for more information, send $2 for our catalog, deductible from the first order or something of that nature.
Okay.
But I don't think you're going to do it in the classified. There are a lot of things that can be sold through classified advertising.
Okay.
But I don't. Let me say before I turn you loose that I'm sure if you peruse, I haven't read Popular Mechanics as an example for a number of years, but I know that there were and still probably are advertisements for build your own go-kart and that kind of stuff. But you see, that's pretty generic.
Right.
I mean, when you talk about a go-kart, I got a pretty good idea what you're talking about. At least the chassis, the steering system, and all that sort of jazz.
Okay.
But you talk about a coffee table. Wow, I mean that goes from everything from an old chest to the hatch door of a ship that's been finished off, and polyglycoated in some fashion.
Right. Okay.
There's a million permutations to that. Would you not agree?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think you'd have a tough time describing something like that without an accompanying picture.
Okay. Well, just another general question about maybe selling plans, like you mentioned, go-kart plans.
Okay, I want you to hang on to that emotion. We get back, we'll talk about selling plans. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. 743-8000. I'm chatting with a gentleman in Austin, Texas, wants to advertise plans in various publications for some of his creations. Your turn.
In selling plans, I guess my question is, what liability do you have for
a great deal.
Your plans?
A great deal.
Really?
Yes, sir. Okay. I mean, I don't know how many people can get hurt on a coffee table.
Right.
But on the other side, suppose you come up with a great plan for a swing set. And for whatever reason, you didn't think it out quite the way you should have, or it would be, for whatever reason, if someone was not quite as able to reproduce as they should be, and they wind up with something that's unstable and somebody gets hurt, guess who?
Really? Okay.
Guess who? And I think that the plan, if you're going to do something like this, this is very basic, all right? Should be a corporation doing this, not an individual.
Okay.
That would give you some insulation.
Right.
And you'd also want some product liability if it's available, and you might not be able to afford it.
Right.
And that becomes very troublesome.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your time, Bruce.
I do wish you well.
Okay, bye-bye.
We're going to East Point, Georgia. This is Georgia night. Hello there.
Hi, Bruce. It's a pleasure talking to you again.
Wow, glad you're here. Again?
Yeah, I'd called you a couple of weeks ago.
Son of a gun. People say, how did you get through 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I'm diligent.
Oh, I'm glad you made it. What's on your mind?
Well, I talked to you about buying a piece of property, and I had been having problems getting financing on it because it was classified as investment income, or investment property.
Yes, I recall. An investment property, you have to pay a lot more in terms of interest and usually put more money down.
30% down.
Yep.
But I talked to the mortgage guy, and I said that I decided to move into that house and rent my present house out.
I think we discussed that.
Right, and he said, great, everything's fine, we shouldn't have any problem getting the money.
Yeah, because now it'll qualify for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that crowd.
Right. Well, I found the property, made the offer, it was accepted, and everything was going fine until he calls me tonight and says that he's talked to most of his sources, and they don't
believe you.
Right. They don't feel that I'll move from
That's right. They don't believe you.
A home worth 120 down to 65.
Well, will you?
Sure, I intend to.
For how long? 2 weeks?
Hmm?
Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I haven't.
Is that what you're talking about? A month?
Probably a month.
Then you're committing fraud, and they say we're not be a party to that. We're not going to get snookered. Because we're right back to what they don't want to do. That's why do you suppose they don't want to finance investment properties as closely as they do primary properties?
Because people walk away from
That's exactly right. And you're trying to snooker them, and I don't necessarily hate you for that.
Well, I can afford the property.
No, you can't. Not in their point of view.
I can't put the big down payment.
No, but if it goes bad, which one are you going to let go? Your house or this property? If things really get tough.
Well, it depends on what purpose.
No, if things get tough a year from now, you lose your job or bad illness in the family, who knows? Well, I don't want to wish things on you, okay?
That's true.
If it really gets down to push and shove, we got to let one of them go. Which one are you going to let go?
The cheaper one.
Thank you very much. The lenders are not stupid. That's why they want a bigger insulator in there. And, here's a guy going to move from a great neighborhood into a slum. I mean, they must think that they're saying, what does he think, we were born yesterday? Good luck, guy. I'm Bruce Williams. This is Talknet. Andover, Connecticut. Hello there. Welcome to my world.
Hey, Bruce.
How you doing, guy?
This is indeed a pleasure.
Well, thank you, sir.
Bruce, my wife and I are unhappy campers, and I need your advice to turn things around.
All right. Well, I don't know if I could turn it around, but let's see what the problem is.
Okay. We went out.
If nothing else, I'll send you the ingredients for some more. How's that?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, you can little marshmallow and chocolate over the graham cracker over the fire. Oh, what could be better?
Oh boy, you got the ingredients already.
Listen, kid, I ran a kids camp for how many years? I know all about that stuff.
Oh yeah, these are big kids that we go with here.
That's all right. I wouldn't mind. What's on your mind? Go ahead.
My wife and I engaged in a contract with a distributor to purchase a trailer, and we did so out of state. And
a travel trailer?
Pardon me?
A travel trailer or a mobile home?
Travel trailer. You pull it behind your vehicle. You know?
Oh, a travel trailer. Okay.
Yeah. And we went out of state simply because the only place that we can get this particular trailer was from a distributor in another state.
All right. This is a new one?
A brand new one.
Okay.
And
how big a trailer did you buy?
This is a 26-footer.
Oh, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
like one of those big Airstreams up in that class?
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay.
Yeah. This was specially constructed. It's one of the latest innovations with aluminum construction and fiberglass siding, similar to what you'd find in a motorhome.
Okay.
Well, anyway, this one, we had taken a great deal of pains to shop, and when we wrote up this contract with the dealer, we made sure everything was in detail.
Does this thing go on a big wheel in the back of a pickup truck, or does this go on the back of a bumper of a car?
Well, you need something bigger than a bumper because...
not the bumper, but in other words, does it go on the back of a car, or does it go on the back of a truck?
It's a bumper connection. It's not what they call a fifth wheel.
Yeah, I know what a fifth wheel. That's what I'm asking. Was it a fifth wheel type?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. This is a bumper connection. It weighs about 7,000 pounds gross weight.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you break something like that down?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, it's got its own set of brakes and, you know.
Boy.
Yeah.
What'd that cost?
This one happened to be around $13,000.
All right.
Yeah, and that's relatively inexpensive one compared to what's out there.
I would think so. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, in any case, we were very complete in the detailing of this contract, including the last paragraph where we had them note on there that the check was refundable, the deposit check, that is, in the event that the trailer wasn't delivered as we wrote it up in this contract.
All right.
And lo and behold, the thing comes in, and there are major structural problems.
How did you determine that?
Well, as an example, storage compartments. They're usually cut in on the outside, and you can use them for a number of things. But one we had ordered in a particular spot on the trailer.
For any specific reason?
Yeah, it was in the bottom of a wardrobe that otherwise would be inaccessible from the inside.
Okay.
And we were trying to utilize that space.
Of course.
And so, consequently, it wasn't there. It was in another location, which was virtually useless because there was no space in it. On the opposite side of the trailer, we ordered a larger storage space it was under the bed,
Right.
And that was obstructed by pipes and wires. And
so that wouldn't be very much worth much either.
Not at all. And there was a number of other things. Problems with the wall covering. It was really a shoddy job that we thought, at least.
I guess these things are all constructed pretty much on a custom basis.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, we were told this one was being custom built for ourselves. In any case, we talked to the distributor and told him that there were certain things on there that, we had to have.
Are you on a cordless phone?
Yes, I am.
How about going to a hard phone while we're talking here?
Okay.
Go ahead.
How's that sound?
Yeah, just keep talking. Go ahead.
Okay. And so we brought all these things to their attention, and they told us that, they agreed with us that the thing was not built according to the specifications.
Sure.
And it really wasn't built to what they had expected of them over the years in doing business with this company, with the manufacturer.
What are you rolling around there?
Pardon me?
You rolling something around now?
No.
You're making all kinds of racket on your...
I am?
Yeah, you really are. Just hold still.
Okay. So they notified the manufacturer of the problems.
Yeah.
And the manufacturer asked to have a list faxed. We did that. And the manufacturer faxed back another list saying, these are the things that we can fix, and these are the things that we cannot fix.
Well, what are the things they cannot fix?
The major things, the access doors, the wall covering couldn't be changed.
It would seem to me that that's their problem, then.
Yeah, I know it. So we tried to convince them to build us a new trailer. And this was back in February, by the way, we ordered it. 3 weeks ago, the distributor notified us that the factory absolutely refused to build a new one, but they were willing to take it back from the state we bought it in back to Indiana, where they're pretty much all made down there.
Yeah.
And
what?
And we manufacture, rebuild it, fix it.
Well, can that be done? I mean, that's a question I don't know.
No, see, because they sent us a list saying that these are things they can't fix.
In other words, you're telling me that let's take one specific item. You got the one door on the side of the and it's all confused with pipes and wires. That cannot be corrected.
That cannot be corrected.
Well, in that case, I tell them too bad, Charlie. And how much of their? I see where we're going with this, and they got some of your money. How much?
$1,850.
Well, I think you may have to sue them for that.
Yeah. I was thinking that too.
Well, I think you're going to have to if they won't gratuitously, voluntarily, or whatever term you choose to use, relinquish those funds. You obviously are not going to go and give them any more.
No.
And you have to go after them.
Yeah. Is there one way to do that better than the other?
Yeah, it's called sue.
Yeah, is it a small claims action?
Well, what's this? This isn't in Connecticut. What's the small claims limit in Connecticut? You're not going to the manufacturer. You're going to the dealer. He got your money.
Yeah, I have to go to the dealer.
Yeah, I mean, you ask him first of all if you give my money back.
Yeah, I already did.
He said
no.
In that case, sue him.
Yeah. So the consumer protection system in the state we bought is quite different from that in Connecticut.
But you bought the... Well, let me know. This is a very simple question, maybe the complex answer.
Okay.
You wrote the check to the dealer.
Yes.
In Connecticut.
No, he's in another state. The dealer's in another state.
Then you're going to have to deal... That's where you're going to go after him, in that state.
Right, okay. And do you think then it would be a small claims action?
I don't know that. You'll have to find out what the small claims limit is in that state.
Yeah, well, we did that, and it certainly falls into that category.
All right, and that's where you...